All right, Mishpachah. Shabbat Shalom to those of you who are here as we continue on with, I guess we will call it, as our Cody Dr. Terry would say, the first part being our TORAH session and the second part being our question and answers. And she said, I like that. I like it too. I like it too. So let's do this. So those of you who had questions about the calendar, and those who still don't quite understand, and I know there are those of you, excuse me, I can't even get the words out properly, that may not totally understand the calendar and grasp it, right? So I'm going to do a little overview of the calendar. And again, you're not probably going to get all of it. You're going to probably learn something new that'll make a little more sense to you. But as you continue to study it with us, I truly believe Yahuah is going to give you a better understanding, as he has also given me a better understanding. Just to give a little background, a little history about the calendar, as it was for me, I started back in 2017. I started noticing that what I thought was the calendar, the Hebrew calendar, the Hillel 2 calendar, the one that the Jewish people use, where they use the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday as a regular 7-day weekly cycle. And then they have another cycle that belongs to the moon. And they are putting those two together to make what we know today as the Hillel 2 calendar. So their Shabbats are always going to be on SAT day, which was yesterday. Okay. And they say that the day begins, every day begins at evening, and it goes all the way to the next evening. But we cannot find an account of that anywhere in scripture. Nowhere. And if you know of a place in scripture that says that a day is from evening to evening, please show it to us in the comments, and we will definitely go there all together. Okay. And show how you are incorrect. I hate to say it that way, but that's what's going to happen. So if you do find that one and you say, oh man, I got one, I'm going to show this to this brother, please do show it to us. I would be more than happy to go over it with you live here on YouTube today. Okay. Now, while you're looking for that, I want to tell you exactly why there's going to be an issue if you think that every single day of the week goes without it ever stopping, and you just think it's just going to be Sunday to Saturday, Sunday to Saturday. Abba Yahuwah, forgive me for even saying those words, or especially the last one, the SAT day. But I want to show you why that does not work and why there's a conflict of interest when you are following that calendar. And you're going to know if you have anything in your mind that is letting you understand, oh, wow, I do see the error and the fault in this calendar. And now you're going to be able to see a little bit clearer why Shabbat is not always going to be on an SAT day, from FRI day evening to SAT day in the evening. Okay. All right. So let me show you. Okay. So let me write this down. Let me get a little piece of paper. Let me do a little scribbling. Where is my scribbly paper? Okay. Here we go. Here we go. All right, you guys. Here we go. So I'm going to write, in fact, I don't want to write on this. Let me write on this. Let's write on the KJV. So we're going to do this as we normally do on the S for, I'm going to put SU, so you know what day that is. Then we have the MO, you know what day that is. The TU, you know what day that is. WE, you know what day that is. TH, you know what day that is. FR, you know what day that is. And we're going to put SAT, you know what day that is. Okay. So now you have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days in the week. Okay. Now, I want you all to put on your thinking caps. Okay. Let's just say all of a sudden you go from Sunday to this SAT day, and this just keep on going like we're doing right now. You know how it is in our society. You go this, and then it starts all over again. And it just keeps going like this all throughout your life. It just keeps going like this. No matter how many years you lived, it just constantly does this. Okay. And you say, hey, that's time. It makes sense. It does seem to make common sense, right? But here's the issue when it comes to Yahuwah's word. Let's just say that this is Sabbath. Let's just say every SAT day is the Sabbath, okay? And you say you want to follow what Yahuwah tells you to do, and now you're going to keep it according to the way the Jewish people keep it by the moon, okay? By the moon. What do I mean by that? So now let me open this up. And we are going to go to Leviticus chapter 23. Let's go to Leviticus 23. Leviticus chapter 23, we're looking at, right here it says, in the first month of the new moon, we're just going to read it for what it says, even though there's a reason why I scratched that out. But in the first new moon, on the 14th day of the new moon, between the evenings is the Passover to Yahuwah. So let's say, now you guys all know, for those of you who know the rules of the Passover, you're supposed to, in fact, let's go to Exodus. I don't even want to paraphrase it. I'm going to read it for you. Let's go to Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12 is where we first see the rules or the laws of the Passover, okay? Even before it was written in Leviticus 23, it was already being told to Masha verbally, orally, from Yahuwah to Masha. And it says this. Let's start at the very beginning of chapter 12, verse 1. And Yahuwah spoke to Masha and to Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim. For those of you who don't know what Mitzrayim is, it's Egypt. Okay, let me blow this up a little bit more. Saying, this new moon is the beginning of new moons for you. It is the first new moon of the year for you. So now we understand, if we're using the moon, because that's what we see here is being read, it's talking about moon. So let's talk about the moon, that orb in the sky that comes up in the evening, okay? Speak to the children or the congregation of Yasharal on the 10th day of this new moon. Each one of them is to take for himself a lamb according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the beings. According to each man's need, you make your count for the lamb. Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year-old male. Take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same new moon. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Yasharal shall slay it between the evenings. That's what it said, but I scratched it out because that was not the way it's supposed to be. It should be at evening. Just like it also says, and this is where I have to give kudos to the King James Version, because they actually had it translated correctly. And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and on the lintel of the houses where they eat it. Now notice now we're getting information and instructions on how to keep the Passover. Now I'm bringing this up because there's also an instruction and a law about how you keep the Sabbath. So there's a instruction on how to keep the Sabbath, and there's an instruction on how to keep the Passover. And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat it raw, nor boiled at all with water, but roasted in fire, its heads and its legs and its inward parts, and do not leave it until morning. Okay? So they're to cook it on the 14th evening, okay? And they're not to keep any of it until sunrise. What remains until morning, you are to burn it with fire. So whatever is left over, that is remaining that you could not eat that night before the sun rises, you are to burn it with fire. You're to throw the rest of it in fire. There's no leftovers of the lamb. It is to be burned with fire. Okay? And so it goes on and says, and this is how you shall eat it. Your loins are girded up, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Passover of Yahuah. So here we're told that you are to cook it on the 14th day, and you're not to allow any of it to be left over till morning. So now when you cook it, you got to marinate it. You're going to take care of it. You're going to cook it with bitter herbs. Okay? So now, and here we see, now that's the rules and the instructions of the Passover. Okay? Now let's look at some of the rules of the Sabbath. What does it say about keeping of the Shabbat? Well, let's go here. Hold on one second. Let me make sure I didn't pass it. Yep. Okay. Give me a second, all of you. Okay. This is some of the law of the Sabbath. This isn't a complete law of the Sabbath, but this is portions of it. Okay. This is Exodus chapter 31. We were just in Exodus chapter 12. Now we're in Exodus chapter 31, starting at verse 12. And Yahuah spoke to Moshe, saying, and you shall say, or speak, to the children of Yasharal, saying, my Sabbatot, or my Sabbaths, you are to guard by all means, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, to know that I, Yahuah, am setting you apart. And you shall guard the Sabbath, for it is set apart unto you. Everyone who profanes it shall certainly be put to death. For anyone who does work on it, that being shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days work is done, and on the 7th is the Sabbath of rest, set apart to Yahuah. Everyone doing work on the Sabbath shall certainly be put to death. And the children of Yasharal shall guard the Sabbath to perform the Sabbath throughout their generation as an everlasting agreement. Between me and the children of Yasharal, it is a sign forever. For in 6 days Yahuah made the Shamaim and the earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed. And when he had ended speaking with him on Mount Sinai, he gave Moshe 2 tablets of witness, tablets of stone written with the finger of Alua Alahim. So that's that one. Okay, so that has to do again with the Sabbath. Okay, now here's another one. Now we're going to go to same book, Exodus. Now we're in chapter 35. Okay. And Moshe assembled all the congregation of the children of Yasharal and said to them, these are the words which Yahuah has commanded you to do. Work is done on 6 days, but on the 7th day it shall be set apart unto you, a Sabbath of rest to Yahuah. Anyone doing work on it is put to death. Do not kindle or to start a fire in any of your dwellings on the Sabbath day. It doesn't mean that you can't have a fire. You just can't start it on the Sabbath day. Okay. You can start it the day before the Sabbath. Okay. Like yesterday, you could have started a fire yesterday to keep you and your family warm in your hut or in your tent or in your home or by the campfire, but you cannot light it on the Sabbath day. It has to be lit the day before Sabbath day, and you can keep feeding the fire through the Sabbath with logs. But make sure that the logs or the sticks are already next to your tent, next to your home, next to your campfire. You are not to go out there and start picking up sticks, okay? Because we know there, and I'm not going to read it, but there's one who was found during the time that the children of Yasharal was in the wilderness, and they brought back report to Moses, and saying, this guy here was found out in the woods picking sticks outside the camp. Well, that's considered work. And that in itself, the penalty was death. So they did stone him to death. Okay, that's how severe it is. When Yahuah says you are not to break the law, the penalty is death. That is what it's saying. That's exactly what the apostle Shaul was saying in Romans chapter 6, verse 23, for the wages of sin is death. Okay, for breaking the law, the wages, the cost of breaking the law is the death penalty. All right. So just wanted to share that with you. So again, all of this has to do with the Sabbath. Okay. Now, let me share with you another passage that's in the apocryphal that gives even more information. And then we're going to talk about the Sabbath and the Passover. What happens? And I'm not going to go there yet, but I just want to say that because again, we're talking about why is Sabbath on this day and why isn't it on SAT day? And how come you guys aren't keeping like what we all keep, the SUN to the SAT day, every day of the week, every day of the week, every day of the week, 7 7 7 7 7 7 7 7 7 7, always 7. Okay. But you're going to find out there's a reason for why that is wrong and it's erroneous. You are not to keep count, even though it sounds like it's common sense and you think that you're supposed to be keeping it that way, that you just continue to successionally count 7 days, 7 days, 7 days, 7 days without a break in the 7 day cycle. There is a break in the 7 day cycle. We're not told about this because we're not raised this way, but the information has come out to us now that we have Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls talk about it. The apocryphas are talking about it. And now we need to line ourselves up with the apocryphas and the Dead Sea Scrolls of people who came before us, who understood the calendar, because we don't have a Hebraic mindset. We have a Babylonian mindset. We have an American mindset. And so all we know is the Catholic calendar. That's right. All of you if you don't understand, that's exactly what calendar you are on. You are following and keeping Catholic calendar. Okay. That is the kingdom that we're told about in Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, that they would change, they will intend to change the laws and the calendar, the times, laws and times. Okay. Exactly what they did. They took away the Torah, they changed the law, and they changed the times. They changed the feast days. They changed the calendar. They changed the rest day. They changed all the high days and gave you their high days. This is why people are celebrating stuff like they are doing right now. That is not mentioned in scripture that you're to keep, but it speaks against it in scripture. So we're going to go to the book of Jubilees. 2 places in the book of Jubilees, it talks about keeping the Sabbath day. It's not talking about Adam's kind. It's not talking about people here. It's talking about angels and the heavenly hosts right here. Okay. That we should work 6 days, but keep Sabbath on the 7th day from all work. And all the angels, here we go. Okay. Or as we would say, messengers of the presence and all the messengers of the purification. These 2 great classes, and may I ad lib, of angels, he, Yahuah, has hidden us to keep the Sabbath with him in heaven and on earth. Now, let me stop right there. Which one of you know of any man or a woman or a child that's in heaven right now, or that is in the past of any time in the past annals of history that you have heard, or has it been recorded or written that they kept Sabbath in heaven? I'm not going to wait. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, you never read anything like that. But you're reading here that the angels were commanded and they were created to even rest on the Sabbath in heaven and here on earth. So today is a Sabbath for the angels as well. If today is the Sabbath, which it is according to the calendar, then what you're going to find out that everyone, including the angels, the righteous angels, not the unrighteous angels, not the wicked angels, the 1/3 that fell, but the 2/3 that kept their abode, kept their real estate, that continue to follow Yahuah, they're resting today. No work is being done by them today. That's how powerful the Sabbath is. Okay? When Yahuah said that he set this day apart, he set this time period apart called the Sabbath, he meant no work is to be done on this day. It's not saying that no work is done. It's that any work that we are to do that's not an emergency is not done on this day. Okay? All right. Askia, this is Jubilees chapter 2, and I'm going to continue to read. Verse 18, and all the messengers of the presence and all the messengers of the purification, these 2 great classes, he has hidden us to keep the Sabbath with him in heaven and on earth. And he said unto us, to the angels, behold, I will separate unto myself a people from among all the peoples, and these will keep the Sabbath day, and I will separate them unto myself as a people, and will barak them, as I have set apart the Sabbath day, and do set apart it unto myself. Even so shall I barak them, and they will be my people, and I shall be their mighty one. Verse 20, and I have chosen the seed of Jacob Notice that. Yaqub. Okay. I have chosen the seed of Yaqub. Hold on one second. Let me see here. What did I just see here? Give me a second. Yes, Aki Al. I'll be getting there as I continue to read. Okay, and I have chosen the seed of Yaqub from among all that I have seen, and have written him down as my firstborn son, and have set him apart unto myself forever and ever, and I will teach them the Sabbath day. Now, when does he teach them the Sabbath day? You can read it for yourself in Exodus chapter 16. That's when he first teaches the children of Yasharal how to keep the Sabbath. Okay, that they may keep the Sabbath thereon from all work. And thus he created therein a sign in accordance with which they should keep the Sabbath with us, with the angels, on the seventh day, to eat and to drink, and to Barak him who has created all things, as he had Baruch and set apart unto himself a peculiar people above all the peoples, and that they should keep the Sabbath together with us. Now, again, it's talking about the angels that said where it says us. Now we're going to skip over here because there's a lot here that this whole chapter practically is talking about the Sabbath. Not all of it, but most of it. But we're going to start here. Let me back up. Verse 28, and everyone who observes and keeps the Sabbath thereon from all his work will be set apart and Baruch throughout all the days, like unto us, like unto the angels. Okay. Now, let me just make sure I didn't miss anything that's important up here, because all of this is actually important. Because there's a passage that I want you to see that has to do with keeping Sabbath and also Passover. Okay. Verse 29. Declare and say to the children of Yasharal the law of this day, both that they should keep the Sabbath thereon, and that they should not forsake it in the error of their hearts, and that it is not lawful to do any work thereon which is unseemly. Notice that, which is unseemly, to do thereon their own pleasure, that they should not prepare. Here we go. That they should not prepare thereon anything to eat that is to be eaten or drunk, and that is not lawful to draw water or bring in or take out thereon through their gates any burden which they had not prepared for themselves on the sixth day in their dwellings or in their homes. And they shall not bring in nor take out from house to house on that day, and that day is more set apart and Baruch than any Jubilee day or any of the Jubilees. On this we kept the Sabbath in the heavens, talking about the angels, before it was made known to any flesh, that is, any people, to keep the Sabbath there on the earth. So Sabbath began in heaven, people. It did not begin when he said, and he Baruch the seventh day in Genesis chapter 2, and he set it apart and said that everything was perfect. No, that was a continuation of a Sabbath that was already being kept. He is now getting ready to show us, Adam's kind, what is the significance and the importance of the Sabbath day. Okay, this is why he says that we were not created for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was created for us. The Sabbath already pre-existed before we were created, before Adam was created. It already pre-existed. That's what you're reading here in Jubilees chapter 2. Again, on this we kept Sabbath in the heavens, talking about these angels, before it was made known to any flesh to keep the Sabbath here on the earth. And the creator of all things blessed it, or Baruched it, but he did not set apart all peoples and nations to keep the Sabbath thereon, but Israel alone. Them alone he permitted to eat and drink and to keep Sabbath thereon on the earth. And the creator of all things Baruch this day, which he had created for a barakah and for a set apart or a purification and esteem above all days. This law and testimony was given to the children of Yasharah as a law forever unto their generations. So now, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but now I'm going to share with you what, if you don't understand and you don't know the meaning of what I just said, you're going to see it now. Remember, we talked about the Passover and how the Passover is to be done at evening, and you are to unalive that lamb and you are to cook the lamb. Okay? If you follow this method always, every day, every month, every year, you're following the 7-day perpetual cycle of sevens, and you don't have a reset date, as Yahuah has given us a reset date, then what's going to happen is one of those years, not always, but one of those years, like it was 2 years ago, the Passover is going to land on a so-called SAT day, their Sabbath day. And the Passover is on their Sabbath day, according to the moon, because they're following the moon to say on the 14th day of the moon cycle is the Sabbath day of the first month. Well, sometimes it's going to fall on their SAT day. So now the question is to be begged to be questioned, and somebody needs to answer this. And I'm going to ask all of you that are out here that are listening to my voice. If you're told not to cook on Sabbath, just like what we just read here, I'm going to read it again, just this little part. What does it say here? Declare and say to the children of Yahshua the law of this day, both and should keep the Sabbath thereon, and that they should not forsake in the error of their hearts, and it is not lawful to do any of the work thereon which is unseemly, to do thereon in their own pleasure, and that they should not prepare thereon on the Sabbath, not prepare anything to be eaten or drunk. This would include if the Passover was to land on a Sabbath day, because you're using this perpetual count of 7 days, 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 and you don't have a reset. That 7 day is one of these years is going to fall on a Passover. So now which one takes precedence? Which one is above the other one? Which one is the one that you're supposed to follow? Are you not supposed to cook on the Sabbath, or are you supposed to cook the Passover? Which one are you not supposed to do? This is the dilemma when you don't understand the calendar, because you're following a different calendar and you're trying to make it fit Yahuwah's calendar. And Yahuwah says you can't do that. So now you have made an unclean day and you're trying to say it is a clean day. You have made a non-celebrating day, and now you're going to say it's time to celebrate the Passover. But now you're about to break the Sabbath law, which says that you are not supposed to prepare to cook anything on the Sabbath thereon on the Sabbath day that you did not prepare the day before the Sabbath. But now here it is, because you're wanting to follow the 7 day, 7 day, 7 day cycle. Let me catch my breath. That you want to do both. Well, today is the Sabbath and it's the Passover. You don't think about what you're not supposed to do on the Sabbath. You're just going to go ahead and cook the Passover. But this is a law forever that you're not supposed to cook. You're not supposed to prepare your food on the Sabbath. I don't care what the high day is. I don't care what the celebrating day is, even if it's the Passover. You know why? Because the Passover will never land on a Sabbath if you're following the right calendar. But if you're following the false calendar, this is what's going to happen. It's going to fall on a Saturday one of these days. Abba Yahuwah, forgive me for saying the word. So now what do? How do you maintain the commandments of Yahuwah? You want to perform the Passover, and you have to unalive this animal, which you're not supposed to unalive any animal on Passover. Mind you, you're not supposed to unalive any animal on not Passover, on Shabbat. Let me show you that. Let's go to the end of the book of Jubilees. Chapter 50 of the book of Jubilees says this. Verse 12, chapter 50, verse 12. And every person who does any work thereon and goes on a journey or tills his farm, whether in his house or any other place, and whoever lights a fire, we've already read that over in Exodus, okay, or rides any beast, or travels by ship on the sea, or whoever strikes or unalives anything. That even means a fly, a gnat. You should not unalive anything that Yahuwah has created, that he has created on the Shabbat day. That is a day of no killing, okay? That includes the Passover lamb. Do you hear what I'm saying? If the Passover lamb on the 14th so happens to land on a Sabbath because of an erroneous calendar that someone is keeping, you're about to break the Sabbath. I'm sorry, but you're breaking it. You can't get around it because you're unaliving a lamb that you're not supposed to unalive on a Sabbath. because you're keeping the wrong calendar. So here it says again, whoever strikes or unalives anything or slaughters a beast, that's what you would be doing with a lamb, or a bird, or whoever catches an animal or a bird or a fish, or whoever fasts or makes war on the Sabbath, that person does any of these things on the Sabbath shall be unalived. So that the children of Yasharal shall observe the Sabbaths according to the commandments regarding the Sabbath of the land, as it is written in the tablets, which he gave into my hands. This is what the angel is saying to Moses, which he has given into my hands, that I should write it out for you, Moses, the laws of the seasons and the seasons according to the division of their days. Here is the completed account of the division of the days. So all of you who have questions about how is today, SUN day, the Sabbath day, because you don't understand the true calendar yet. And I hope you do understand the true calendar as time goes on. One of the things that you have to understand is this: you cannot unalive an animal on the Sabbath. You cannot cook on the Sabbath. All of that is part of the Passover instructions. The Passover, as we just read earlier, let's go back and read it. I'm going to read it out of the King James Version. Let's go to Exodus chapter 12. Let's read this again. Exodus 12. With the instructions of how to keep the Sabbath in mind, now let's read this. We're not going to start from the very beginning. We're going to start from here. Verse 3. Let me blow this up. Speak until, and I'm not going to use all the Shakespearean lingo. I don't like the ye's, thous, and those. I'm just going to speak as we normally would speak with modern English. You speak unto the congregation of Yasharal, saying, on the 10th day of this month, they shall take unto themselves every person a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every person according to their eating shall make account for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out of the sheep or of the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day and on of that same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall unalive it in the evening. This is on the 14th day. But wait a minute, we just read in Jubilees chapter 50 that you cannot unalive any animal on the Sabbath. So which one takes precedence? I mean, I already answered it for you, but which one takes precedence? Can the Passover land on a Sabbath? No. Because now we have a conflict that Yahuah has told us, because we have erroneously have been given this information the wrong way, and it has been taught to us the wrong way. And we think that we can unalive an animal on the Sabbath day, even if the Passover happens to fall on the Sabbath day, that it is okay. Where's that instruction at? Anywhere in the Torah. Show me anywhere in the first 5 books, Genesis to Deuteronomy, where you can unalive a lamb on the Sabbath. If the Passover falls on the Sabbath, you won't find it. You won't find it. You know why? Because the Passover will never land on a Sabbath. Every high day and every Sabbath day does not share it with any other day. The Sabbath will always be a Sabbath unto itself. The Passover will always be on that Passover day unto itself. It will never land on a Sabbath day, because the 7-day cycle does not just continue as you and I have been taught. It makes common sense that it's supposed to be that way, but that is not the direction. That is not the information. That is not the instruction that Yahuah has given his people to follow. And that means that there is a marker somewhere in our calendar that resets the days and resets the week, so that the week count of 7, 7, 7, 7, which is a Shabbat, and then a Shabbat, and a Shabbat after 52 Shabbats. There's a reset after 52 Sabbaths. There's a reset. If you don't reset your week, what you're going to find is your Passover is going to land on a Sabbath one of these years, and now you have a dilemma. You have a dilemma. And you can ask any of these fake rabbis that live in this world right now, well, what do you do when the Passover lands on the Sabbath? Oh, they're just going to tell you just to do the Passover. They're just going to do the Passover because they look at the Passover as a Sabbath anyway. But you can't do it that way because, again, there's rules and regulations to the Sabbath. And one of them is that you're not allowed to prep your food on the Sabbath, and you're not allowed to unalive any animal on the Sabbath. But all of this goes out the window when you want to keep the traditions of men and you want to keep the Catholic calendar where you're keeping the 7-day weekly count without a reset at the end of the year. So you have a dilemma. This is what exposes that every day cannot be, or excuse me, every Sabbath cannot be on an SAT day. It can't. There's no way it can. It's not possible. It's possible for those who don't want to follow the instructions. So now it becomes a tradition. But if you're following the true calendar, the Passover will never fall on a Sabbath, ever. It will never fall on a Sabbath. None of the other high days, the matzah, the first day of unleavened bread, the second day of unleavened bread, it will never happen where the high day of the first day of unleavened bread will fall on a weekly Sabbath. It won't happen. Because that day in itself is already a Sabbath, the first day of unleavened bread. And then in the middle of the day of of the week of unleavened bread, you're going to have a true Sabbath week. That's the weekly Sabbath. I just showed it to you on the calendar beads. And then right after that, you're going to have the last day, which is also a set apart day, also known as a Sabbath. So you have 3 Sabbaths in the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The first day is a Sabbath, and the last day of the celebration is a Sabbath. And right smack dab in the middle is your weekly Sabbath. But that weekly Sabbath will not ever be on the first day of the unleavened bread or on the last day of unleavened bread. It will never fall on a Passover. It will never fall on the first Feast of First Fruits. It will never fall on Shabuot, also known as Pentecost. It will not fall on the Feast of Yom Teruah, also known as the Feast of Trumpets. It will not fall on the Day of Atonement. It will not fall on the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles or the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. Again, each high day is a day unto itself, and it never shares it with a weekly Sabbath if you're on the right calendar. But if you're on a false calendar, you're going to see your weekly cycle. It's going to hover and it's going to move and it's going to come upon one of these days. And now you have a dilemma. And I just gave you one if it fell on a Passover. And now you got to deal with the Passover and you got to deal with the Sabbath. Which one takes precedence? Can't make it happen. Can't make it happen. So now, who doesn't understand that before we move on to the next portion of why today is the Sabbath? Who else may have a question about what we just talked about Passover and Sabbath, that they cannot fall into the same day? It's just impossible on Yahuah's calendar. Anyone? If not, we're going to go on to the next passage here. Why today is the Sabbath. Is it crickets out there right now? I'm taking it that everybody's understanding this. Jordan, you want me to explain again? When did you come in, Jordan? Did you just come in? Because if you just came in, I'm going to have to point you to, you might want to listen to this after it's uploaded once I get off. Foresight, Divine, what do you do if we have a job that has us working on the Sabbath? Well, again, this is where we have a dilemma with us living in this world, right? Because we all have come into this understanding. Well, most of us already have a job, right? It's not like you went to an employer and you said, look, this is the condition of me being employed here, is that I have certain high days. And if it's okay that I can give you these high days before the year begins, and if it's okay with you, then I can work for you. But now, for those of you who are already working in a location, working for an employer, and you just came into this truth, one or two things you can try, right? One is just like what I just said. You can go to your employer, to your manager, your supervisor, whoever it is that does the weekly schedule, and see if you can get these days off. Okay. If you can't, because you're already here working, everyone's got a schedule, you can't get that schedule, maybe because you're not at the top of the list, and so you're not day one employee and somebody else is above you. So through seniority and ranks, you're not able to get those days off. So you're stuck with the calendar, or you're stuck with the days you have off. Yahuah knows what you want. He knows that if it was possible and it was in your control, you would not be working those days. However, we live in Babylon. We live in Egypt. We live in Rome. And these people are over us. We're still in our captivity. We're not in the land. It'd be different if you was in the land and everything was according to the script and everything was done by the script and everyone who lived around you was doing this because we're in the kingdom. But we're not in the kingdom. And since we're not in the kingdom, Satan has his ways with us, just like Pharaoh did with the children of Yasharal. He would not let his people go. So they couldn't worship him in the way that they were supposed to by knowing the Sabbath day. So it is the same for a lot of us. We are working on days that we shouldn't be working. But Yahuah understands that you understand that this is a day that's supposed to be set apart. So like what I like to tell people, and Abba Yahuah, if I'm wrong, please give me revelation of it as I'm sharing this information to others. You still have things under your control, even if you have to go to work. Let's say you work at the airport, okay? And you work at the airport as a ticketing agent, just to give an example. You can't get the days off that you're supposed to get off according to scripture. And you can't get around it, but you still need to pay the bills. You have little ones at home. You got to take care of your home. You have all these responsibilities. The things that are in your control is that you can make sure that you cooked your food for you and your family the day before you go to work, before it's Sabbath. You cook it the day before, preparation day. You still do your prep. You make sure when you go to work, because maybe you have an electric car, so you don't have to worry about gas because your car's already electrified and you're ready to go because it's already charged. That's different. But you don't want to go to a gas station. You should have went to the gas station for the week, knowing that tomorrow is Sabbath. You don't want to spend money if you don't have to, okay? You have that under your control. No commerce on Shabbat. Soon as work is done, you take yourself home. You go straight to the house. You don't hang out. You don't let people serve you hand and foot because they're not even supposed to be working. Even though they might not understand what you know they ain't supposed to be working. And you ain't supposed to be working. But you don't go to a place of business after you done got off work and you decide to go to a bar to have a shot of whiskey, or you went to a IHOP because you wanted some pancakes. No, your food is at home that you prepped the day before. So as soon as you leave work, you go straight home. You eat your food at home. You want to warm it up in the microwave? Warm it up because you did all the cooking yesterday. All you're doing is warming it up. You're not prepping it. You're not chopping and dicing onions and tomatoes. All that stuff was already done. It was all cooked. All you're doing is warming it up. And now you can eat it. Okay, so why is today the Sabbath? Well, if you understand what we are told in scripture, like it was said to Moses in Exodus chapter 12, that this is the beginning of the year for you. Okay. How would Masha know that that was the beginning of the year? Well, in the book of Jubilees, chapter 2, it tells us this beautiful information. Jubilees chapter 2, verse 9. Well, let's go to verse 8. This is a recounting of Genesis chapter 1, but in greater detail than what you read in Genesis chapter 1. And we're going to read about the fourth day of creation. And on the fourth day, he, Yahuah, created the sun and the moon and the stars, and set them in the firmament of the Shama in the heaven, to give light upon all the Arats, the earth, and to rule over the Yaum and the Layla, day and night, and divide the the light from the darkness. And Yahuah appointed the sun, the sun, to be a great sign on the Arats, on the earth. For what? For days, and for Sabbaths, your weekly Sabbaths, and for months, and for feasts or your high days, and for years, the completion of a year, and for Sabbath of years or 7-year periods, and for Yobalim or Jubilees, which is a 50-year period, and for all the seasons of the years, which is your spring, your summer, your fall, your winter, as it continues on year after year. Okay? So let's back up. Yahuwah has appointed the sun, not the moon, not like what the Jewish people are following with their moon calendar. You don't follow the moon. The moon is unstable in all its ways. It is not like clockwork like the sun. The sun is clockwork. It's clockwork. You don't have to follow the moon to understand when a day begins. It begins when the sun rises over the horizon. And when it sets, that's the end of the light portion of the day. The dark portion of the day is still going. So it is the sun that is a great sign. Well, what is that sign? What is the great sign that the sun gives us? Well, the sun gives us 4 great signs a year. What are those 4 great signs? It's called the solstices and the equinoxes. Those 4 signs on the earth is also told to us in the book of Enoch. Let's go to Enoch chapter 72. Enoch chapter 72 says this. As soon as I can open it up there. And here we go. Reuben, the purpose of the moon is for planting and is also for signs. The moon is an omen. It's for signs. And for planting your seeds, your gardens, your crops. You know, like you ever heard of a planting moon and a harvest moon and a strawberry moon and all these other names of moons? It has to do with crops. You have to follow the moon cycle to get the best of your crops. Okay. So here it is here, and it says this. The book of the courses of the luminaries of the heaven and relations of each, according to their classes, their dominion, and their seasons, according to the names and the places of origin, and according to their months, which Uriel, the set-apart messenger, who was with me, with Enoch, who is there as a guide to show me, and he showed me all their laws exactly as they are, and how it is with regards to all the years of the world unto eternity, until the new creation is accomplished, which endures until eternity, which is what you read in Revelation chapter 22, where it says that he creates a new heaven and a new earth, and New Jerusalem comes down. Okay? But starting at verse 2, it says this, and this is the first law of the luminaries, the luminary, the sun, just like what we just read in Jubilees, that the Creator appointed the sun for our days and for our Sabbath and for our weeks and for our months and for our years. Okay? As it is risen in the eastern portals of the heaven. Remember, the sun does rise in the east. I don't care what anybody posts on your TikTok or your Instagram post talking about, oh, your map is upside down. The sun actually is rising in the west. Stop being so gullible and listening to everybody with their posts. If it doesn't line up with scripture, throw it away, please. Okay? The sun does rise in the east. The sun has its rising in the eastern portals of heaven and its setting in the western portals of heaven. And I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises and 6 portals in which the sun sets. And the moon rises and sets in these portals, and the leaders of the stars and those of whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west. Now, to save you and spare you of all the words of what is being said, let's just go hear what it says here in verse 4. And the first there goes out this great luminary named the sun, the sun. And his circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. The chariot on which he, the sun, the sun, ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that it comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of the heaven. In this way, he rises in the first month, in the great portal, which is the fourth. Okay? So now we have 30 days in the fourth portal, 30 days in the fifth portal, as you can see in my margins here, as I put my little notes. And then the sixth portal, or the third month of the year, there is 31 days on account of the summer solstice. And it tells us right here in verse 13, and it returns to the east and enters into the sixth portal and rises and sets in the sixth portal 31 sunrises or morning on what? Account of its sign. Just like we read in Jubilees chapter 2. What did it say there? Verse 9. And Yahuah appointed the sun to be a great sign. The Hebrew word there for sign is ot. It's to be a gadol ot, a great sign. The great sign, one of them is the summer solstice. This is the reason why there's an extra day in the month. And the same thing happens again 91 days later. 31 mornings on account of its sign. Now it's the autumn equinox. Okay? And then 31 days later again, you have the winter. Where is it here? There it is. The winter solstice. And then 31 days again, and it brings us back to the beginning of the year, which is called the spring equinox on account of its sign. So these four signs is the way you find the first day of the year. Now, let me take you to the book of what we know as the Dead Sea Scrolls to start to put some understanding to this. So let me grab my Dead Sea Scroll book here. This is the one that I use. There's some other ones. They all pretty much say the same thing. You may have a different author or translator. The one who translated this is Giza Vermes. Okay. There's another one by this guy named Charles. He did one too. But let me show you what it says here about the first day of the year. Give me a second as I look it up. Now, anybody who wants to purchase a book like this, it does not read like your scriptures or your Bible. This is a book that is more of a historical reference, excuse me, as it also is an archaeological reference, because there's a lot of archaeological information in here, but it's telling you how they conducted themselves in their communities. Thank you, Cody Jackie. See, I just did right before we switched over, but I will be doing it again here as we're coming up on the hour. I want to show you guys this passage here. Notice this is the fragment number 4Q400. Okay. It says to the master. This is the translation. Okay. Now I don't know everything what this translation means when it says the song of the Holocaust. I don't know what the song of a Holocaust is. When I think of Holocaust, I think of something very bad happening. So I don't know what this translation word of Holocaust really truly means. But what I do know is what it says after. The first Sabbath on the fourth of the first month. So the very first Sabbath of the year is going to be on the fourth or the fourth day of the first month. Think about that for a second. The first Sabbath of the year is always going to be on the fourth day of the first month on Yahuah's calendar. Now, let me show you our calendar. Okay, so let me open it up here. I think I had it opened earlier. Yes, there it is. All right, I want to thank our Cody Jackie C for putting our calendar together. Let me take you to the very first month. This is the 12th month. Okay. So here's the first month of the year. Okay. And let me blow it up because we want to look at the first 4 days. This is the first day, also known as the spring equinox. First day of the year. Okay. First day of the month. And then we're told the first day, or the first Sabbath, of the year is going to be on the 4th day of the first month. That's what we just read in the Dead Sea Scroll parchment. Again, 4Q400, it says here, to the master, Song of the Holocaust of the first Sabbath, on the 4th, or on the 4th day of the first month. Right here, you see on our calendar, from the spring equinox, which is the first day of the year, that's the great sign on the earth. It's the only day during the spring where everybody, no matter where you live on the earth, north of the equator, south of the equator, it doesn't matter. You're going to get a straight line shadow by keeping or understanding how to read the shadow on a sundial, or a stick in the ground. You can have a stick in the ground and you read the shadow from sunrise to sunset. A few days, hopefully you can do a few days before it and at least a day after the spring equinox, so you know that you got the correct reading. Okay, I'm going to be doing that this year, Yahuah willing, coming up in the month of the pagan month, March, because the spring equinox always happens in March. Okay, it's usually varying between March 18th to March 22nd, but most of the time it lands on March 20th. Okay, practically every year it'll land on March 20th, and then sometimes March 19th, and then it'll go to other days between the 18th and the 22nd of March. But anyhow, with that being said, if you go here and you look, the first day of the year, spring equinox, that's day 1. Why is the Passover, the Shabbat, 3 days later, and it's the 4th day of the month? How is that from the first? Why wouldn't this be day 1, week, first day of the week? Because Yahuah is resetting the week count right here. Spring equinox will always fall on the 4th day of the week. The word Yaum means day. Day 4. The spring equinox will always reset to day 4 of the week. And you will say, well, day 4 of the week, okay. What a lot of people are doing who are coming into this understanding, they can't get themselves to divorce themselves from this Catholic calendar, and they still want to use these 7 days of the week. Where did I put that paper? They still want to use this erroneous counting of the week. You can't use this. You got to remove this. You got to stop using this SUN day all the way to SAT day, because if you're doing that, what you're doing is you're merging 2 different counts, and Yahuah does not use that. He doesn't use it. You're using it. You, with your finite mind, think you understand an infinite creator who is telling you his calendar, and you still want to put it in a box to your understanding, and that's why you're getting confused. If you just allow him to give you what he has given you. The reason why the spring equinox always happens on day 4 of the week of the year is because on this day, when he created the sun, moon, and the stars, he created it on day 4. Hence why the spring equinox always start on day 4 of his week. Don't you put Wednesday on this. Don't you put no Wednesday on this, because that's what people like to do. They like to do this all the time. And I even have this woman who sounds like a belligerent woman. I don't know who she is, but this is the way she thinks. And she's not the only one. There's a lot of people who think this way, and they want to continue to use this day, this day, this day, this day. So they say, oh, the 4th day of the week. Okay, well, this is the first day, second day, third day. Oh, it's got to be Wednesday. Wednesday is the 4th day of the week. So let's say the spring equinox didn't happen on a WE Day. It happened here on TH Day. You know what these people will do? Zadok Way calendar, the Christian Coalition calendar, the Covenant calendar, they all want to supplant because they always want their Sabbath to be on a SAT day. What they'll do is they'll go to the next WEDNES day. If the spring equinox happens here, they'll go all the way until the next week and say, okay, so they literally put their life on pause, put their counting on pause, and they'll wait until Wednesday comes back around and they'll say, okay, this is the first day of the year now, because they want to make sure that their Sabbath is always on a SAT day. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Remove these pagan days. Don't use these pagan days. And if the spring equinox happens to fall on FRI day, then that's the first day of the week, or excuse me, the first day of the month and the first day of the year on Yahuah's calendar. But that makes it the fourth day of the week on Yahuah's calendar. I don't care what man's calendar is telling you, because it's FRI day. That is not the sixth day of the week. It is the fourth day of the week. If the spring equinox happens on FRI day, that day is the fourth day of the week, not the sixth day of the week. I don't care how many people try to tell you otherwise. Get rid of YHWH Akkad, because that person doesn't know what they're talking about. They're not coming here to ask questions, but they want to come over here to criticize and ridicule. You teaching folly. Ha ha ha. Okay, you think it's funny right now, but it ain't going to be funny on that day when you stand before him. So again, I'm showing you receipts. I'm not coming off the top of my head. This is exactly what it says here about the first day. The first Sabbath of the year is on the fourth day of the month. Again, you'll see it right here. The first Sabbath of the year, this is month 1. The first Sabbath is going to fall on the fourth day of the year, or the fourth day, excuse me, the fourth day of the month. Okay? So this is the reason, like it happened this year, spring equinox happened on the 20th of March this year. 20th of March this year, we're going to go back to March 20th. Oh, here we go. Oh, let's go back up one. Here we go. Here is March 2025. 20th happened here. This was the spring equinox. It happened on their THURS day. Okay? This is the first day of the year. Second day. Third day. What do you know? The fourth day of the week. It lands on a SUN day, which is today. This is why today is the Sabbath. Who doesn't understand that? If you don't understand that, bring me your 5-year-old little child and let me explain it to them, and I guarantee you they'll get it. So we have another one here who wants to come in, Robin Hood. It is for sure SAT, SUN up to Sun, SUN. Again, you're not listening and you're not even looking at what I'm presenting before you. This is historical evidence. The Qumran community, the Zadok priesthood, was using this same calendar. And I can show you even more than this, which I'm about to show you how every Sabbath is almost, I can't say all, but most of the Sabbath are literally accounted for by month and by the date. By month and by the date. Okay? Let me show you. Yeah, fingertip. People just don't want to listen. You show them stuff and they still don't want to believe, but that's okay because it's not for them to understand. They can continue to be lost. Let him be lost still. Let the wrong continue to be wrong. Let him be wrong still. Those who want to be unrighteous, let them be unrighteous still. Just like it says in the book of Revelation, chapter 22. You want to continue to be evil, continue to be evil still. Okay? You want to be lost? Stay lost. Let me show you here. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, On the fourth day in the week of the sons of Gamul, in the first month of the first year. And then it goes on and talks about the fifth day and all this. Okay, but what I want you to see as we start going through this, you're going to start seeing where it talks about the Sabbath. Okay. On the Sabbath in the week of Hakaz, corresponding to the 30th day of the lunar month. Now, notice what's in brackets here. Okay. This was added by Giza Vermes, the translator. He adds this. It doesn't say that. On the 30th of the second solar month. So let's go to the second solar month. Let me not blow this up so big so you can't see it. Let me bring it down. Kadash 2, also known as month 2. You see here, this is the Sabbath column. You see it faintly there, the number 30. Second month, there's a Sabbath, and it's the 30th day. You'll always have a 30th day that is going to be a Sabbath on the second month, always. If you have the correct calendar, it's going to look like this. The second month, the last Sabbath of the month is going to be on the 30th. This is what we're reading right here. On the Sabbath, Hakaz, to the 30th, on the 30th of the second solar month, they put solar month, but we know on the Sabbath is the 30th day, okay? Let's go to another one where it talks about the Sabbath. Here's another one. On the Sabbath in Seorium to the 29th, and then they put this mess here about the lunar month. It doesn't say anything that. On the 25th Yaum in the 7th solar month. Okay, so the Sabbath. Let's go to the 7th month. Here's the 7th month. What did it say here? On the 25th day in the 7th solar month. Again, they put solar month. But here it is right here. Look it right there. 7th month, 25th day is a Sabbath. Okay? It's that simple. All you got to do is follow the calendar. That's all you got to do. The only reason why we all, and I'm talking about we all have this confusion is because we have all been programmed since we was a little child by our parents or whoever raised us, your grandparents, your foster home, whatever, and they telling you every day, this is this day, this is this day, this is this day. Today is trash day. Go take out the trash. Today is that day. So you take out the trash. Your brain is literally being programmed to understand their weekly cycle. Okay? You go to school and they're reinforcing that same weekly cycle. You go to work, they're reinforcing that same weekly cycle. And then you come to a aha moment. And Yahuwah's like, I'm going to show you the true calendar. And when you got the true calendar, now you got to deprogram, reprogram, so you understand the true program. Let me show you another one. On the Sabbath in Paziz to the 30th, on the 18th in the 4th month. So let's look at that one. This one is what month? The 4th month. There should be a 30th day, right? Let's go back up. Did I say that right? What number is it? 18th. I said the 30th. 18th on the 4th month. 4th month, 18th is a Sabbath. Come on. How difficult could this be? It's right here in your face. This is what they didn't want us to understand. This is why they wouldn't release the Dead Sea Scrolls for almost, when did they find it? In 1945? And here it is, 2025? Someone do the math for me. It's been some years, decades. This is the restoration of the calendar that these people didn't want us to have. The Jewish people don't want us to have it, and the Catholic people don't want us to have it because they're both on false calendars, both of them. Let me show you some more. So let me show you this one. This is another amazing fact about, like what I told you earlier, about the Passover having its own day and every day having its own day. They never share the day with another. The first year, it's feasts. On the third day in the week of Mazuz, I can't even say the name, is the Passover. On the third day. So let's go here. Remember, all these day 1, day 2, day 3. So the Passover is supposed to happen on Yaum 3, day 3. Let's go to the first month, see if it lands on Yaum 3. Here is Kadash 1, month 1. Let's look at day 3. Here's day 3. Let's go down. What do you know? Pesach, Passover. It lands on day 3. What? Come on now. Give me any other calendar and it's not going to fall like this. This is how you know all the other calendars are erroneous. This is it. This is it. Let me show you some more. Now, we just did the one here. It says that on the third day of the week is going to be the Passover. Let's go to the next one. On the first day, the wave sheaf offering. On the first day is the wave sheaf offering, okay? What do you know? There it is. That's the first day of wave sheaf offering, right there. First fruits of the barley. Not by accident. That's the Sabbath. The very next day, the 26th, that's your wave sheaf offering, okay? Let's continue. On the first day in the week, of course, they have that there, but that's correct. It's going to be in the week. Yeshua, the first of the Feast of Weeks, also known as Shabbat or Pentecost. So let's go to the third month. Of course, this is the 7th day, the last day of the week. Shabbat, or the Feast of Weeks, always happens on the first day of the week. It will always land on the first day of Yahuah's calendar week, not on your SUN day. That's the pagan first day of the week. We don't do pagan weeks. We don't do pagan days. We don't do pagan months. And we dang sure don't do pagan calendars and calendars of their high days. Let's go to another one. We're staying right here. It's talking about the feasts. Okay, we just did the Feast of Weeks. Let's see, what else is here? The Day of Atonement. Ah, yes, this is another one. The 7th day, or the 7th month, right? It says on the 6th day, which is going to be the Day of Atonement on the 7th month. Now this, let's check it out. Let's go there. It's going to be on the 6th day of the week, right? If it's correct. Let's go there. 6, 7. What? 6th day of the week. There's your Day of Atonement. The Day of Atonement straddles the 5th day of the week and the 6th day of the week, but it's actually to be performed on the 6th day of the week, on the 10th day of the 7th month. That's what it says right here. Let me show you. Again, this is the calendar. I don't know what else to tell everyone, but I'm just going to show you what it says. I'm giving you receipts. You go about your business and you figure out what it is that you want to follow. But don't be calling me saying that I'm the one who's wrong and I'm the one leading you wrong, or I'm the one that's leaving a whole bunch of people wrong. Like this one woman says, you got so many people listening to you and you're leading them astray. I'm not leading no one astray. You have every right not to listen to what I'm saying. You can change the channel. You can plug your ears. You can curse me out. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to hear this. Leviticus chapter 23. Verse 27, on the 10th day of this month, of the 7th month, is Yom HaKippurim. Yom meaning day, the Kippurim meaning atonements. The Day of Atonements. It is to be done on the 10th day of the 7th month. Again, 7th month, 10th day. This is the 6th day of the week. This is where is the Day of Atonement. As you can see right there, Yom Kippurim. Day of Atonements. It's a day of fasting. Okay? Same thing we just read here in the Dead Sea Scrolls, parchment, about the Day of Atonement right here in the 7th month. What day is it going to fall on? It's going to fall on the 6th day of the week. It falls on the 6th day of the week. Yaum, day 6. There's the 10th day. Again, I don't know what else to tell you guys. All right? In case that doesn't give you enough, let's look at this one. Here's another feast day. On the 4th day of the week, Yahuah or Yahu, it's the Feast of Tabernacles. The first day of the Feast of Tabernacles, because you know Feast of Tabernacles is an 8-day celebration, but here it says the 4th day of the week is the beginning of it. So let's go here. Let's look. What do you know? We're already in the 7th month. Here's the first day, the day of Sukkot, also known as the Feast of Tabernacles. What day of the week does it fall under? There it is. Day 4. Here it is. 4th day of the week. It's the Feast of Tabernacles. 4th day of the week is the Feast of Tabernacles, and it's an 8-day celebration all the way to here to the 22nd, which also ends on the 4th day of the week. So, I mean, we can do this all day just to show you how all of this lines up. Same thing here is telling you the same thing all the days of the feast days, and it shows you what day it falls on. All of this. It tells you every day, so you're not confused, so you know if you have the right calendar or not. If whatever calendar you're following doesn't line up or match up with the Dead Sea Scrolls, you are on the wrong calendar, my friend. Let me tell you why we know that the Dead Sea Scroll calendar is correct. Because where these parchments were found, it's the same location where John the Baptist and his disciples were immersing people at the Jordan River, also known as the Dead Sea area, the Dead Sea region. They named it the Qumran Caves in that area, and they called them the Qumran community. They never called themselves Qumran. They never called themselves Essenes. What they did call themselves was the Zadok priesthood, which is the righteous priesthood. That's what Zadok means. It means righteous. Anyone else has any questions about the calendar? Aki Jimmy, tell song that I got my calendar beads. This is Taki the working dog. Okay, yes, we'll do, Jennifer. .com, ambassadorsofyah.com, and I would advise anyone to just surf the link tree. All the stuff is there. All the stuff is there. Watchmen of Yahuah, you're very welcome. Nahabiyah, the pleasure is mine. Anyone else has any questions about the calendar? And again, the one that I always get, and I'm surprised no one has said anything. Yeah, but you're not following the moon. My Bible says that we're supposed to be following the moon. Well, I just showed you that we're not. It says from new moon to new moon and Sabbath to Sabbath. No, that's what your translators wanted you to see was new moon. It doesn't say new moon in Hebrew. It says Rosh Kadash. It doesn't say Rosh Yirach. If it said Rosh Yirach, you would have an argument. But it doesn't say Rosh Yirach. Yirach is the word for moon in Hebrew. Kadash means set apart. Even if you want to pronounce it Kodesh, Rosh Kodesh, which is what most people pronounce it as, Rosh Kodesh. That's like having an American, a gringo speaking Spanish. Que pasa? You know, que pasa, and show you that it doesn't say moon. Now, James Strong has been exposed to the Jewish teaching of the Masoretic vowel points, and he believes, James Strong, the one he's passed away now, so we can't ask him, but you can see it in his work called the Strong's Concordance, that where it used the word Kodesh, he also ascribes it to the moon, but nowhere in Hebrew. And anyone who understands anything about Abri or Hebrew know that the word Kodash or Kadesh or Kodesh has anything to do with the moon. That is what the translators wanted you to keep and wanted you to follow, because they wanted to take your eyes off of the sun and they wanted you to follow the moon. And in the book of Jubilees, in 2 places, it speaks against clearly identifying the moon, that you're not supposed to follow the moon, that you will be 10 days off. And if you follow the moon, you're going to mess up all your high days. You're going to mess up your Sabbaths if you follow the moon. But you can't tell that to a knucklehead who wants to continue to teach other people how to keep them follow the moons and the phases of them. We used to keep months. Can you show me that in scripture? That Yahuah told the children of Israel to look at the back of a turtle and notice that it has 13 segments on the back of a turtle, and that's why you're going to have 13 months in a year? Yes, Susie. That I need to show you in Jubilees chapter 6, where it says that you are not to follow the moon. So let's put this together. Well, I tell you, this book is truly falling apart. I got to get me another one of these little pocket size, or not pocket size, but smaller size. Okay, so I'm going to be reading out of the complete Apocrypha. And we're going to go to Jubilees. First, we're going to go to Jubilees chapter 2, what I read earlier. And then I'm going to read Jubilees chapter 6, because I need to put the 2 and 2 together. Jubilees chapter 2, verse 9, again, it states, and Yahuah appointed the sun, not the moon. He appointed the sun to be a great sign. Why did he appoint the sun? For days. He appointed the sun for Sabbaths. He appointed the sun for months, not the moon. The moon, this is why I have an issue with the book of Sirach, also known as Ecclesiasticus, because in Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, it says that the moon gets its name from the month gets its name from the moon. Okay. Where's the second witness to that? Where's the third witness to that? Sirach is the only one who's saying that. Nowhere else in any of the Apocryphas are saying that. And again, from my studies of who Sirach is, he's a Hellenized Jew. He has a brain understanding of a Greek. He looks at everything from a Greek perspective, just like many of us are still looking at everything from an American romantic Rome perspective from the Catholic Church calendar. That's why it's so difficult to understand Yahuwah's calendar if we don't just release that whole so-called Gregorian calendar that we're all following every single day of our life. But again, it says that he appointed the sun, not the moon, for all of these specific days and specific times. Now let's go to chapter 6 of Jubilees. Chapter 6 of Jubilees says this, verse 36. For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon and how it disturbs the seasons and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon. For this reason, what reason? For making observations of the moon. It will come upon them when they will disturb the order and make an abominable day a day of testimony or witness, meaning that you're going to make a dirty day, an unclean day, a filthy day, a day that is not to be lifted up, and you're going to make it a day that is to be lifted up or set aside. And an unclean day, a feast day. And they will confound all the days, the set apart with the unclean and the unclean with the set apart, for they will go wrong as to the months. Why? Because they're making observations of the moon. And they're going to go wrong as to the Sabbaths. Again, why? Because they're making observations of the moon. They're going to go wrong to the feast days. Why? Again, because they're making observations of the moon. And they're going to also go wrong as to the Jubilees, again, because they're making observations of the moon. So now, right there, it's telling you, you are not to follow the moon. But if you listen and you read a passage like this, translators, and all of you know how much I love the scriptures 2009, but even they were wrong. They should not have put the word moon in here, like you see right here. In the first new moon on the 14th day of the new moon. You notice that it's italicized. You know what italicized means. Let me blow this up so you guys can all see. You see that word there? Once my cradle stops shaking. That is what's called italicized. That's italic print. It's got a little slant to it. You notice all the font is different than those that are italicized. And the word moon is italicized. Why is it italicized? Let's go to the preface, where most people don't read. Let me see if I can find it for you, because I haven't actually marked it down so I can show you that's what it's saying. But we're going to find it. Give me a second, and I'm going to blow it up for you so you guys can all read it with me. Let's see. Second writings. Restoration of the name. Second writings. Issues, transliteration, which text, conclusion, other. Okay, here it is. Bam. And I'm gonna underline it. Give me a second, all of you. And then I'm going to show you why. And I'm giving you receipts, because I don't want anybody saying, well, you're just saying that's your opinion. No, it's not my opinion. I'm showing you receipts why they're telling you why they italicized the word moon. Okay? All right. Let me make this. I like to make sure my lines are straight, or as straight as possible anyways. All right. Let's read this together, shall we? Blow it up a little bit more so you guys can read it with me. Words in italics are not found in the original text, but were added for context and or readability. So they're telling you flat out, blatant, but most people don't read it. They just believe that the moon is supposed to be there. Let's go back to Leviticus chapter 23 and let's read that passage again. Understanding that that was added. In the first new, this should say, and the King James got it right, it should say month or period instead of moon. This is what's throwing everybody off, because these Jewish people are making observations of the moon. That's exactly what that word that we just read in Jubilees chapter 6 verse 36 said, that there would be those of you who will assuredly make observations, meaning that you are looking at the moon phases. You are looking at the crescent moon and you say, oh, there's the sliver in the western horizon. Now it's the new month. Let's blow the shofar and let's let everybody in the congregation know that it's the first day of the first month, or the first day of the month. That's nowhere in scripture. You're not going to find anywhere from Genesis to Revelation or anywhere in any of the apocryphal books where somebody was looking at the moon and saying, we saw the sighting of the new moon and so the month began, or anything to that vernacular or anything of that sort. You're not going to find it. So again, this should read either in the first new month or the first new period. This is why you see that I have the word moon anywhere that I have it on my scriptures. If I hadn't got to it yet, it's going to be crossed out, because I, for one, is not that I am going to be confused, but I do this so that those that I'm sharing it with, they always ask me the question, why do you have moon crossed out? How many of you have seen somebody ask me that question that's been here with us? They'll always ask that question. Hey, why does he have the word moon crossed out? Or why does he have the word covenant crossed out? Or why does he have, sanctification crossed out? Or LORD and GOD crossed out? So again, it shouldn't say moon. It should say month or period. Anyone else has anything that they want to ask about? And I didn't know that we were going to get into this study about the Sabbath today, but apparently this is what Yahuah wanted us to do, and that's what we're doing. And I hope Somebody got a revelation today. Someone understands a little bit more than they did just yesterday. One God above all. Your opinion on KJV? Well, so let me put it this way. I only use the King James Version because I have to go back to use that as a source to go into the Strong's Concordance, because James Strong's, who put the concordance together, he used the King James Version. If he would have used the Geneva version, then I would have been using the Geneva version, and I wouldn't even use the King James. That's my feelings on King James Version. The King James Version has been totally changed in many aspects. Now, there are certain things that they got correct, and this is why when I would read certain things like the word moon here, they would actually have the word month, and I would say, just like some of you heard me say earlier, the KJV got that correct. Okay, but there, and again, there is no perfect translation out there. There is no perfect translation. But when I need to share, and for me to understand, for me to be able to share to someone else to where I can get them to understand what I'm understanding, I like to come out of books that are more clear and that are more evident. And even if it's not clear to the reader, by doing a little research, you get to understand why this word was changed, where the King James said this reference or this translation says that, and then going into seeing why they changed it, it exposes why they changed it from the King James version, and it's usually going to be because it has pagan origins to the word. Mike Moreno, I don't know if you are for or against. I don't know if you follow the moon calendar or if you don't, but you make my point exactly. Even though you use the word month, you say it refers to a 28 days between new moon to new moon. Okay. Again, the way that the word month should be used when it comes to keeping his feast days has nothing to do with the moon nor the moon cycle. Alexis, again, Psalms 104 verse 19 is talking about seasons. Okay. Seasons. Let's go there. A lot of people who like to follow the moon, this is one of their arguments, is 104:19. Psalms 104:19. He made the moon for appointed times. That word here, which is moadim. Moadim can be used in many ways in the Hebrew language according to its context. Now, if you wanted to say that it's for appointed times, you can say it's for appointed times, but if you understand what the moon is for, you know it has to do with seasons. Okay, so let me show you that in the Strongs. Again, another receipt. I'm not going to give you my opinion. I'm going to show you what it says. The translator decides to use appointed times. And let me see how it's written in the King James Version. Let's go to Psalms 104:19. And here, the King James got it correct once again. He appointed the moon for seasons, not appointed times. Because if you put the word appointed times, then you're saying that it has to do with Leviticus 23, where he says, these are my appointed times. My appointed times are these. And then he goes into the Sabbath, and he goes into the Passover and Matzot and so on. Okay. So again, the scriptures got that wrong, because again, just like, this is why I say there is no perfect translation out there, but to show you from the Strong's Concordance why this was used, let me open it up here. Psalm 104. All right. Verse 19. Let me blow it up. Give me a second. And then I'm going to let you guys see what I'm doing here. Oops. 104:19. Okay. He appointed the moon. Now notice the word moon here. Let me use my pointer. This is the actual word for moon. Urach. Okay. Now, if we just want to use the actual letters here, okay, this would be Ya, so let me see, Your, Ya, or Yar, Ak, or Yar, Uk. It could be either one. We don't know which way it is because we have lost the actual terminology for the word of how it's supposed to be said for the moon. So it could be Yarak, Yaruk, either one. Okay. But again, here it has the word, it just says moon, right? All right. So now let's go to the point where it says the next portion, 4150. This is where we get the word Mo'ad, Mo'ad. Okay. It could be Ma'ad, Mu'ad, Mu'adin, or Mu'ada. Okay. Which is the one that they put down here. We know there's no O, but that's Mu'ada. Anyhow, if you look down here, these are all the ways that the word Mo'ad could be used. An appointment, that is, fixed time or season, specifically a festival, conventionally a year, by implication an assembly, technically, by extension a place of meeting. All right, this is what all these words Mo'ad could be used. Okay, congregation, it could be season, solemnity, synagogue set, time, appointed. All that being said, we know that the moon is not for appointed times. We just read it in Jubilees, or we're saying that there's contradictions in Yahuah's word. We know there's no contradictions in Yahuah's word, because if we're following the moon and you think that 104:19 has to do with his appointed times, then you're once again in that problem of that you're going to have the Sabbath falling on one of these high days. You can't use that. So you know the moon is out the question. If you understand that, then you know you cannot use the moon. But if you don't understand that, yeah, you're going to be lost in the way you understand how the calendar is to be kept, and you're going to start following the moon for all your seasons. I mean, for all your appointed times, when the moon is for your seasons. Alexis, you are very welcome, and I appreciate your question. And again, it's not so much that what I am on, but again, I'm showing you guys receipts from the Dead Sea Scrolls to the Book of Jubilees to the Book of Enoch, and even in what we call the Scriptures. It's all there for those who are able to see it. And this is why when we went over the Book of Acts and we went through some of the passages in there, how it lines up with the calendar. Okay, without even knowing that that's what Shaul or whoever wrote the book of Acts was using, the same calendar that we're using, and all those days fall in line with that calendar, and it's amazing. Same thing with the book of Daniel, when he said that he had fasted for 3 weeks of days. Well, we know that he started his fast just by going back and looking at everything, that he started his fast on the very first day of the year at the spring equinox. And because they were not in the land and they were in Babylon, they weren't able to keep the feast days. And so he fasted, but he didn't fast on those 3 Sabbaths that also was part of his fasting regimen. So we come to the day, I think it said it was the 24th day of the first month or something like that. If you count the 3 days that he didn't fast, this is how you get your 21 days of fasting. Because the 3 days that he didn't fast are the Sabbath days, and that's why it says that he was on the 24th day of the first month, he had this vision. Exactly, English Joe. There is no 13th month anywhere in Scripture. That is, again, the number 13, like 13 colonies, 13 stripes, 13 stars. Yeah, this is all, that's all got to do with the Illuminati. This is the wicked one who's doing this. Satan is number 13. We don't do 13. All right. So we got about another 30 minutes or so. I want to keep this segment also just a little over 2 hours, and that'll be fine with that. Oh, yeah. This country was established on Satan principles. This is why they call it a Christian country. And all of you who know what Christianity is, you know it is the beast system. Okay. And the beast always uses scripture. That's how he deceives people. He wants you to believe that it has something to do with our creator. And this is why we're getting all mixed up with all of this. In God, we trust on our money. And in God, we trust over some of these buildings in Washington, D.C. But if you allow those scales to fall off your eyes, you'll see Satan all over the place, like the Pentagon. Why is the DOD, the Department of Defense, in the shape of a pentagon? Well, we know what a pentagram is, and we know what the Pentagon represents. It represents Satan, the Baphomet. Okay? Why is the tallest thing in Washington, D.C. an obelisk, a phallic symbol that Yahuah hates to the core, but yet this is supposed to be his country with his people? Yahuah forbid. This is all satanic. And that's just a few of some of the architecture work in this country. So anyone who wants to be patriotic, anybody who wants to be gung-ho about this country and what it represents, you're just causing confusion in your mind, my friend. Because Yahuah has nothing to do with this country. He's going to demolish this country and everything that it represents. I don't care if you call yourself a Republican. I don't care if you call yourself a Democrat. I don't care if you call yourself an independent. You are playing their game. You're not to be playing this game. You don't belong to them. You don't belong to this world. You belong to Yahuah, and he's your leader. He's your ruler. He's your king. Nobody else. 17:24:9. So you think scripture is satanic? No, I don't know why you would get that idea. I read out of the scriptures, so no, I wouldn't think that. All right. True reinvestors. Oh, it's great to see you here. I was so disappointed how they are hidden in plain sight. Oh, yeah, it's all over the place. Oh, it's okay. No need to say you're bad. Aki Brandon, Yahuwah Barak you. He's the one who's opened your eyes and allowed you to grow spiritually. I'm just a vessel being used. And even if I walk away from this truth, it's his words that has changed your life. It has nothing to do with me. Yeah. Same thing to you, Chris Yahoo. What else do we have here? Anybody else need to see some other receipts? As they like to say. I mean, in fact, where did this word receipts come from anyways? Why is everybody using the word receipts? I got receipts. I thought receipts was for something that you paid for and you have a receipt. I didn't pay for any of this stuff that I'm sharing with you. It was given to me freely and I freely give. Right? I guess I would go back to the old school and say, I got proof. Anybody need some more proofs instead of receipts? I got proofs. Why is proof not okay? Everything is receipts now, right? Or that's like others that it's like, oh man, I like your drip. You know how even when we was young, you know how we just change words. Oh man, that's dope. Oh yeah, word. We just had all kinds of words that we used, and it became known to the people that was connected in that culture what that word meant, right? Right, Aki Emmanuel. That is definitely a worldly term. Oh, I didn't know that, Cody Nazareth. It's been very new to me. Yochanan, Yah's daughter, Drip. Yeah, that's so the youngsters today, they say that they like the way the clothes, they call it drip, right? So they say, yeah, he's got nice drip on. They're talking about he's got nice clothes on, or nice threads, as some of us used to say back in my hip hop days. For Clover, please pull off for Amelie. Who is oh, demons possess her. Heavenly Abba, we come before you in the mighty name of your Ben Yahushua HaMashiach. Abba, none of us know who Amelie is, but you know, and Four Clover knows. But we ask in the mighty name of Yahushua that you would remove the wicked spirits that is within Amelie. In Yahushua's name. Amat. Jimmy Armstrong. Great first name, by the way, Jimmy. It's just so weird every time I say my name to somebody else. It's just, it feels weird. May Yahuah continue to barak you and those that are listening over in Pittsboro, Mississippi. Lachey Brown, you say, if you have an old videos or if you don't mind explaining now, how long should we honor the Sabbath day? Is it sunrise to sunset? That is a great question. That is a very great question. So, and I'm thinking about this because I already know the answer according to scripture. But let me have everyone, those of you who are here, when does a day begin and when does a day end? How are we to keep our days? For Clover, I am not Christian. That's right, Nicole. Sunrise to sunrise. That's right, Jacob. Sunrise to sunrise. Cain, you said to sunset? No. It is sunrise to sunrise. And I will show you proof. I will give you proof. For Clover, Amat is Hebrew for truth. Okay, so it's from sunrise to sunrise. Okay, now I do have a video on this. It's called When Does a Day Begin? You can find it here on YouTube. I'll give you a quick synopsis of why we know that the day begins when the sun rises, and we'll start in Genesis chapter 1. You see, it's all about reading comprehension. If you don't comprehend what you're reading, then people can tell you what you are reading, and you're going to believe their understanding, and now it becomes your understanding. And that's what we don't want, because we've all been a victim to that. Every last one of us. There is not one of us that has not been a victim to someone else's understanding of the word. So let's look at this. Let's look at day 1. Let's go to verse 5. And Yahuah Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning one day. Verse 8, talking about day 2. And Yahuah Elohim called the expanse Shamayim, or heavens. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning the second day. And so it goes all the way to the 7th day. Now, what I need you to all see, Unlike those who like to tell us that a day starts in the evening, these are the same ones who are telling us that light is darkness and darkness is light, or righteousness is evil and evil is righteousness. This is exactly what was prophesied, what was going to happen, that they are going to tell us blatantly in our face, no, a day doesn't start when the sun rises. The day starts when the sun goes down. And we're like, okay, that. Yeah, because you said it, I'm going to believe that the day starts in the evening. Or even better yet, like the Catholics like to teach, a day doesn't begin when the sun rises. A day begins when it strikes midnight. Okay, I'm going to believe that the day begins at midnight after it clocks and it hits straight up on the clock. That's okay, that's the beginning of the next day. This is all erroneous, but they got us believing this and we believe it. Okay? Now, I say all that to say this. Notice the two times, and you'll see it 6 times if you're reading it in Genesis chapter 1, evening and morning, right? Evening, morning, yeah? Evening and morning, and so it goes. Okay, now the same thing, I don't care what translation you read out of, and I'm going to show it to you even in the King James Version, which I don't like that well, but I'm going to go ahead and read it out of here because, again, I need you to see it. Evening and the morning were the first day. Evening and the morning were the second day. Notice and put it on your thinking caps, everyone. If it's from evening to evening, why doesn't it say, and the evening were the first day? It doesn't say that, does it? It says evening and the morning. It doesn't say evening to the evening were the second day. It doesn't say that. So what constitutes a day? If you're only going to deal with evening and morning and think that that is a full day, you're mistaken, my friend. The evening just came just now for those of us who live in the United Snakes of America, right? Some of you are sitting in darkness. I'm now in darkness here on the West Coast. But let me ask you a question. When the sun goes down, we call that evening. You can still see the rays of the light, but you don't see the orb of the sun. We call it evening or sunset, dusk, right? That's evening. Between evening and morning, you have what is called night. Remember, and Yahuah called the light day and the darkness, not the evening, but the darkness, when there is no even light and even darkness. That's what evening means. Okay. Evening means even light and even darkness. Darkness he called night. He didn't call evening night. Evening is half light and half dark. And so is the morning. The morning is half dark and half light. Okay. Dawn, dusk. Half light, half dark, half light, half dark. One is just at the beginning of the day when the sun is coming up, and the other one is at the end of the day of sunlight when the sun is going down. Okay. However, when you have it the opposite, it says evening and the morning. The only thing between evening and morning is nighttime, darkness. There is no light between evening and morning. Okay. There is none. Now, if it was flip-flopped and it said morning and evening, then you would say only a daylight is considered day. Are you guys following me so far? If the sun rises and you say that Shabbat is only from the time that the sun is up, then it should say from sunrise to evening is the first day. From sunrise from morning to evening is the second day. From morning to evening is the third day, because between morning and evening you got the sun. But that's not what we're reading here. We're missing something. This is why translations are so important. Again, reading verse 5, it says, and Yahuah Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. Remember, I said it doesn't say evening and then to the evening was the first day. It says evening and then the morning. Between evening and morning, you have darkness. It's called night. All right. But here's the translation issue. Let's go the scriptures. Here in the scriptures, you're going to see that it has some other words attached to evening and morning. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning one day. Let's back up. And there came to be evening. What are we told? What are we being told here? There was something before evening because it came to be evening. It didn't just was evening like it says in the King James Version, and the evening and the morning, first day. That sounds so cut and dry, but it's not telling you what literally happened. What is actually telling you was that the work was before it came to be evening. So let me show you, as I always share when I show this, I have to show you this illustration because it just makes more perfect sense for you to be able to see it with your eyes. Here I have an illustration about the times of the day, and you're going to notice the same words are in here, okay? You see evening and you see morning. Now this goes in a clockwise fashion, just like the sun, okay? Clockwise over the flat plane of the earth, okay? It's not the sun that is stationary and we're going around the sun. Stop with the whole heliocentric model. We don't do the heliocentric model here because the scripture doesn't teach a heliocentric model, which means that the sun is in the center. What we're being taught is that the earth is flat and that the sun is hovering over the surface of the earth and it is going around in a circuit above the flat plane of the earth in a clockwise fashion. This illustration is showing us exactly that. Same thing. If we just say that it's evening and morning is day one, just like I said earlier, if we say that this was the beginning of the day, evening, you're going through the night. And now it's morning. That's day one. Where is the whole other half of the day? It didn't say morning and evening. It didn't do the morning to evening. Then we would have the day portion, but now we're missing the night portion. So neither one of those makes sense. What makes sense is exactly what we see here in the scriptures. It says, and there came to be evening. Well, what happened before this in verse 5? He said, let there be light, and there was light. That was his work. Just like when you leave your house in the morning and you get in your vehicle or you get in the commuting of a train or a bus or a subway. That is for those of you who aren't working swing shift and graveyard shift and you're working normal hours of a day. You get up right before the crack of dawn. You want to use that precious resource called sunlight to make sure you get your job done. So if you was a farmer, if you was one who was out there as a shepherd, which is what we're talking about here, in those times, in those days, they didn't use no electricity. They didn't use no candle or a wick. They didn't use no torches when it came to work. They used the sun. So you get up in the morning, you go to work, you work, you might have a lunch at noon, you keep on working, and now it's time to go home because your day is done. You don't put in your 10 to 12 hours, maybe as we say today, your 8 hours at the job, and you start commuting home. Well, when you commute home, it is now evening, it's sunset. You get home, you play with the kids, play with the dogs, eat your dinner, take a shower, and now it's time to rest. You go to bed, nighttime. And then you do it all over again. You get up, you go out at sunrise, and you work your day shift, and you do it all over again until sunset. And then you come home and you do it all over again. This is exactly what you are being taught and told here throughout the days of creation. This is what he was talking about when he says 6 days you are to work. And on the seventh day, you are to rest. Well, when do you work? Just like the Messiah says, is there not 12 hours in a day for you to do your work? Yes, there is. Now, when the Messiah is saying that, he's not talking about a 24-hour period of 12 hours day, 12 hours night, because we know that's not the way it works. Depending on the time of the year, depends if you're going to have an even sunlight and even darkness. And that only happens right around the time of the equinoxes. What he was talking about, giving us general information, is do you not work and there's only 12 hours in a day to do that? Exactly. So where's the other 12 hours? It's when you rest. And so here we're being told the same thing. And Yahuah Elohim said, let light come to be, and light came to be. And Yahuah Elohim saw the light, and that the light was wonderful. It was perfect. It was pleasant. And Yahuah Elohim separated the light from the darkness. And Yahuah Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. Done with his job. Finished. He spoke the light into existence. Now he's done working, and it came to be evening. It's time to go home now, symbolically speaking, relaxing. And then it came to be morning. That first day is fully done. At the rising of the sun at morning, it is now going into the second day, where he now separates the waters from the waters. That was his work. He created the expanse, the firmament. That was all his work. And it came to be evening. He's done with his work for that day. Rest came to be morning. That is the completion of that full day. Now it's time for you to wake up and start the third day. That's what you're being told in Genesis. Now let me back it up. Let's go to Exodus chapter 16. Exodus chapter 16. What does it say here? In fact, let me put my phone back in the cradle. Let's read this together. As I said earlier, as we were reading in Jubilees chapter 2, where it talks about that Yahuah was going to teach a group of people how to keep the Sabbath. That group of people, he says, out of all the peoples on the earth, he chose Jacob as his firstborn. It was to his lineage, to the children of Yasharal, Israel, that he was going to teach the true Shabbat, what it meant to rest on the seventh day. The only location in all of Scripture that we can find this, any location, even in the writings, what we call the New Testament, or in the apocryphals, this is the only location that you find where he literally shows us how he taught the children of Israel how to keep the days of the week, including the Sabbath. So let's read this. Starting at verse 3, and the children of Yasharal said to them, if only we had been unalived at the hand of Yahuah in the land of Mitzrayim, that is in Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat and when we ate bread to satisfaction. For you have brought us out into this wilderness, talking to Moses and Aaron and Miriam, to put all this assembly to death with hunger. And Yahuah said to Moshe, now check this out, see, I am raining bread from the heavens for you. And the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day. Notice that. They are going to gather a day's portion every day in order to try them. Your translation may say to test them, whether they will walk in my law, the Torah, or not. And it shall be on the sixth day of the week. Not your FRI day, Yahuah's sixth day of the week, that the children of Yasharal shall prepare what they bring in, and it shall be as twice as much as they gathered daily. And Moshe and Aaron said all this to the children of Yasharal. At evening you shall know that Yahuah has brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, and in the morning you shall see the esteem of Yahuah. Notice the same words here being spoken. At evening, in the morning, evening, morning. We just read this in Genesis chapter 1. And evening and the morning were the first day. But we know it says it better than that in the scriptures. It says, and it came to be evening, and it came to be morning. Day one, or one day. Okay, so here we're being told about the same time references, evening and morning. But remember what he said here, and I want you to keep this in the back of your mind as we continue to read. Notice what he says, how he was going to test them. I am going to rain bread down from the heavens for you. Why? In order to test or try them, whether they will walk in my law or not. He says 6 days they shall prepare what they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. So on the sixth day was going to be a sign for the children of Israel. When they see a double portion of this stuff called manna on the ground, they would know the very next day would be the Sabbath. So they will see a double portion of it on the sixth day of the week. They will not find none on the Sabbath. So as we continue on, remember evening and morning, and he was going to use bread to test them. Okay. Now let's read verse 8. And Masha said, in that Yahuah gives you meat to eat in the evening. Notice he's going to give them meat to eat in the evening, and in the morning, bread to satisfaction. What did I tell you to remember? Remember, he said he is going to rain down bread from heaven, okay, to test the children of Yasharal. So now, let's continue. Verse 12. I have heard the grumblings of the children of Yasharal. Speak to them, saying, and again, here they use between the evening. It should say, at evening you are to eat meat, and in the morning you are to be satisfied with bread, and you shall know that I am Yahuah your Alua Elohim. Verse 13. And it came to be, that means that it was a process of time, came to be, prepositional phrase, that quails, that's a form of a bird. Quail is like a dove, came up at evening. This is the meat that they were going to eat at evening. They ate quails at evening, and it covered the camp. And in the morning, the dew laid all around the camp. Well, what was this dew? It says, and a layer of dew went up and on the surface of the wilderness, and was a small round substance as fine as frost on the ground. And the children of Yasharal saw it, and they said to each other, what is it? Because they did not know what it was. And Masha said to them, it is the bread which Yahuah has given you to eat. And remember, he said he is going to test them with this bread. I am raining bread from the heavens for you, in order to try them whether they will walk in my law or not. So again, he's not talking about anything about quail. He's not talking about anything about meat. He's talking about this bread that he is going to rain down every day. But when did it come down? In the morning. That's what he said. At evening you are to eat meat, and in the morning you are to be satisfied with bread. Morning, okay? Now, it says, and it came to be that quails came up at evening and covered the camp. In the morning dew laid all around the camp. So let me ask you all a question. If it was that a day began in the evening, why didn't he teach them with quail? Why is he teaching them with manna that came down every morning if the day didn't start in the morning? But let's continue just to show you that that's exactly what he's saying to us. Verse 17, and the children of Yasharal did so and gathered some more, some less. And it talks about how much they gathered. And it says here, verse 19, and Masha said, let no one leave of any of it until morning. And they did not listen to Masha, so some of them left a part of it until morning, or to say until the next morning, because they picked it up the day before. And it bred worms and it stank, and Masha was angry with them. And then it goes on and says, and they gathered it every morning. What is the it that they gathered every morning? The bread that rained down from heaven. This is what the Messiah said, that he was going to test them if they are going to walk in his laws or not. Okay? So here it is again. It says they gathered this substance every morning, each one according to his need. And when the sun became hot, it melted. So it lets you know that there's a time reference here. There's a time that you cannot pick this stuff up because it would melt. It would literally melt. So once the sun got up too high in the sky, it would melt the manna. It would literally frost, or it would defrost. So they had to get it, and it was time sensitive. They had to pick this up every morning as the sun was just coming up, and the morning is crisp and it's cool in the beginning of the day. This is when they would find this stuff. And so it says here, verse 22, and it became hot on the sixth day, or excuse me, and it came to be on the sixth day that they gathered twice as much bread. Just like he said up here, he says that it shall be twice as much as they gathered daily. So now here it is, they are seeing the sign. The sign is that they would see twice as much out on the ground. Okay. And so here it says here, verse 23, and he said to them, this is what Yahuah has said. Tomorrow is a rest, a Sabbath set apart to Yahuah. That which you bake, bake; that which you cook, cook; and lay up for yourselves all that is left over to keep until morning. And they laid it up till morning, as Masha, commanded, and it did not stink, and no worms was in it. And Masha said, now here it is the next day, eat it today, for today is the Sabbath to Yahuah. Today you do not find it in the field. When would they find this in the field? Every morning. This is why they would gather it every morning. How did they know and recognize that this was the Sabbath? Because when they came out of their tents, they didn't find it. This is what it says in verse 27. And it came to be that some of the people, they still went out, may I ad lib, on the seventh day to gather, but they found none. When did they go out to gather? Every morning. How was he going to teach them if they were going to follow his laws or not? That they were going to keep the Sabbath? By letting them know that they're not going to find it in the morning of the seventh day. So if the Sabbath started in the evening, then he should have said, I'm not going to rain any quail in the evening on the camp, so that you know that tomorrow, that when you see that there is no quails on that day, on the sixth day of what you call the Sabbath day at evening, I'm not going to rain down no quail, no meat in the camp. But he didn't teach them with quail. He taught them with manna, and the manna fell down every morning, not in the evening like the quail did. So here's a second witness that a day begins at morning and not in the evening. And Yahuah taught them by showing them that they would get a double portion on the sixth day. So the next day when they wake up and they open up their tents and they look out on the ground, you're not going to find none, because this day, when the sun rises, is the Sabbath. Who doesn't understand that right now? And if you don't understand that, once again, bring your little child and let me explain it to them. And I guarantee you they'll understand it, because you're allowing yourself to get in the way because you're thinking a little too hard. Here we got another one who wants to bring up Nehemiah. Again, not having a Hebraic understanding prove your faith. You come in here with an exclamation mark instead of asking me, well, what do you think of Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 19? No, you're going to blatantly just come in here and you're going to spit out your 2 cents worth without asking a question. Do you know how that is so disrespectful? But you know what? Forget that. It doesn't matter. Let me go ahead and put you on timeout. I'm going to put you on timeout for 10 minutes, okay? Let's do that. Now, we can go to Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 19, and I can show you that you don't know what you're talking about, my friend. You're reading into what you're seeing because you already have the mindset of the darkness. You think that the day begins when the evening comes. And I just showed you 2 passages that says otherwise. Now, you can be dumb all you want. That's up to you, between you and the Creator. Okay? But I have no time for that kind of nonsense. I can show you another one in the New Testament, chapter 28 of Matthew. Let me show you. This is a third witness. Matthew chapter 28, verse 1. Let's read this carefully. But late in the Sabbath. Just what I just read right there. Is the Sabbath over? Is the Sabbath over right here where it says, but late in the Sabbath? It doesn't, does it? It says that it's late in the Sabbath. Late in. This is why reading comprehension is very key. It's still Sabbath. As it was dawning into day 1 of the week. The word dawn is letting you know that the sun is starting to come up. But the Sabbath isn't over yet. Why? Because the day begins when the sun literally comes over the horizon. That's the ending of that day. That's exactly what we read in Genesis chapter 1. Evening and morning. It came to be evening. It came to be morning. That was the end of that day. And as the sun rises, it begins the next day. This is exactly what we're being told right here in Matthew chapter 28. Same thing. Now, if you have a bad translation like the King James Version, it says this. In the end of the Sabbath, they're telling you that the Sabbath already ended as it began to dawn towards the first day of the week. How can it begin to dawn towards the first day of the week and you're saying that the Sabbath is already ended? Either it's not Sabbath anymore or it's the first day of the week. It can't be both. You can't say the Sabbath ended and yet the first day of the week hasn't come yet, because that's what you're saying here. That's what it's saying. As it began to dawn. Okay? So you can't say something has began to dawn and then say that it's over already. It's not. It can't be both. So it should have said, if this was the correct terminology and the correct translation, it should said, in the end of the Sabbath, as it is the first day of the week, or on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Marys came to the tomb. You don't see that. So again, when you read it here, it makes it clear, it makes it evident. But late in the Sabbath is not over yet because it's late in the Sabbath, as it was dawning. The word dawn means that it is rising. Okay, just like I showed you here with this illustration here. You see the word dawn right here? Notice it's under the horizon line. Okay, and then you see these little pictures, excuse me, here. You see, this is what dawn looks like. You see the sun rays, but you don't see the sun. When you see the sun coming over the horizon line, like you see this picture here, that's called sunrise, because you see the sun and it's rising. Okay, I know it sounds very difficult, it's very elementary, but it's difficult for some people. But that's what it's saying here. Okay, same thing here. Sunset. You see the sun and it's going down. This is not sunset. This is dusk. Okay. The sun is setting. All right. When the sun sets, then it's dusk. You don't see the sun, but you see the sun rays. That's called dusk, or also known as evening. Even light, even darkness. This word evening in the Hebrew is the word Arab. Arab. Like you call people Arabic. The word Arabic is a Hebrew word for the people that they call Arabs. Arab means, again, half light and half dark. That's why in the Middle East, you see a lot of people who are Arab looking. They're half light and half dark. Why? Because that is the bridge of 3 continents. And you see there the Hamites and the Shemites, who are both dark, and then you have the Japhites, who are the Europeans, and they are light. Well, they have babies, and you're going to get mixed breed people. They are called Arabs, half light and half dark. Okay? Egyptians were not Arabs. That happened through time. Egyptians are dark, melanated people. Yeah? Libyans are not light-skinned people. They were dark. Tunisians were dark. Moroccans were dark. Okay? This is because of the mingling of the peoples in that area. That's how Northern Africa became Arabic or Arabs. Same thing would happen in Saudi Arabia. Okay? The original Saudis, or the original areas there in Arabia, they were dark-skinned people, but there was mixing that was going on between the Grecians and the Assyrians and the ones who are Romans at the time. All that is what caused what we know today as Arab people, Arabic people. All right. So now, let's go to Nehemiah. Nehemiah. First, let me find the tab here. there was this youngster that was swearing up and down with me over the same passage, okay? But let's look at this. Let's see, where shall we start? And a commanded house, okay. Back and deputies. So let's start at verse 13. 13. Let's read this. And I appointed as treasurers over the storehouse of Shalemiah, the priest, and Zadok the scribe, and Padiyah of the Levites. And at their hand was Hanan, son of Zakur, son of Mattinyah, for they were reckoned trustworthy, and it was on them to distribute to their brethren. Remember me, O my Yahuah Elohim, concerning this, and do not wipe out my loving commitment that I have done this, or that I have done for the house of my Yahuah Elohim, and for its charges. And in those days I saw in Yehudah those treading the winepress on the Sabbath. So they're not supposed to be treading the wine presses on the Sabbath, okay? And then it goes on and says, and bringing in sheaves and loading donkeys with wine, grapes, figs, and all kinds of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. Notice they're bringing all this stuff into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. So I warned them on the day they sold food, okay, which was what day? They did it on the Sabbath. And men of Zor dwelt there, bringing in fish and all kinds of goods, and sold them on the Sabbath to the children of Yehudah in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Yehudah and said to them, what evil matter is this that you are doing, profaning the Sabbath day? Did not your fathers do the same, so that our Yahuah Elohim brought all this evil on us and on this city? Yet you bring, yet you bring added wrath on your Yasharal by profaning the Sabbath. Now notice, this is where we get into this. And it came to be when the gates of Jerusalem were shaded before the Sabbath. Notice that, before the Sabbath. Now, this word shaded here, let's go into the Strongs. This is where people like to say, see, it starts in the evening. No, it doesn't start in the evening. Sorry. It's because you are assuming that that's what that passage is talking about. Let me go here. Nehemiah. Here it is. Chapter 13. And we're at 19. All right. Open the gates, and it came to be in the gates that it began to dark. Okay, so here is the way they write it here in the King James, okay? Here's Nehemiah 13, and it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, right here, the word dark, a primitive root rather identical to H6749 through the idea of hovering over, to shade, as twilight, as an opaque object, begin to dark, shadowing. Okay, that's what it's talking about here. Now, as you continue to read here, and we're going to just read it right out of this, dark before the Sabbath. Let me not use this because it's going to go over all of that. It did it again. Let me move this out the way. Before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut. And some of my servants set I at the gates, that there should be no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day. Now, let me read this out of the scriptures. So here we have, again, and it came to be when the gates of Jerusalem were shaded before the Sabbath, that I commanded the doors to be shut, and commanded that they should not be opened till after the Sabbath. And I stationed some of my servants at the gates so that no burdens would be brought in on the Sabbath day. So now look at this. It says, and the merchants and sellers of all kinds of wares spent the night outside Jerusalem once or twice. And I warned them and said to them, why do you spend the night around the wall? If you do so again, I shall lay hands on you. For that time on, they came no more on the Sabbath. So what are we being told right here? First of all, let's use some common sense. As the sun was going down, it became evening. You start to see the shadow. These people were setting up shop. I don't know if any of you have ever been to a farmer's market, but this is what it would be like. It would be like a farmer's market, okay? There's not already booths set up. There's not tables already set up, and you just bring your stuff and just put it on tables, and now you can just start selling on the Sabbath. It did not start in the evening. This is when they would come before the Sabbath to put all their stuff out. So when the sun comes up, they're already set up for everybody who is walking through the gates of Jerusalem, and they start their day by shopping. And you're not supposed to be doing no shopping on the Sabbath. Do you understand what is being written here by Nehemiah, the Nabi? Or do you still want to have this understanding that the Sabbath begins at evening? Jesse Porter, you guys are just coming in, but I'm not even gonna mind you guys because you're not even trying to look into this matter. You're just coming in. And this is what happens when you have a public forum, right? Because nobody just goes into a church and just say, wait a minute, that's not what the scripture says. I mean, I've done that before and got thrown out the church, but that's different. But usually most people don't do that. Yes, you did, Jesse, and you studied it so hard that you lost yourself in your studies because you don't know what you're talking about. And I don't say that to disrespect you. I'm just saying is lining it up with the scriptures, you are wrong, my friend. And I showed three different witnesses and testimonies. Now, if your mind doesn't want to understand that, that's between you and the Creator. This is not the place where I'm going to debate with anybody because I don't debate, especially on the Sabbath. Okay. Let's see here. Who else do we have? Okay, anyone else has any questions and not comments of what they understand, what they believe is the truth? Because everyone who likes to show me what they believe is the truth, and you can't show me the proof, you're just talking in the thin air, and I won't even begin to have a conversation with you. And account 468, you said Shaul was debating on the Sabbath. No, he was sharing the word on the Sabbath, and people are asking him questions. Ruben, do you have any information about the intercalary days mentioned in Enoch, etc.? Well, there's a few things about the intercalary days. I don't like to call it intercalary. I like to call it seasonal transitional days because that's exactly what it is. It's transitioning from one season to the next. Enoch chapter 72, you see it there, and you'll also read it. I believe it's in Enoch 75. Let me go and look. Let me see here. Give me a second. All right. Enoch. Chapter 75, I believe it is. Give me a second. Yes. So Enoch 75 says this about the so-called intercalary days. I don't know if you know about this, but let me read it to you. And the leaders of the heads of the thousands who are placed over the whole creation and over all the stars have also to do with the 4 intercalary days, being inseparable from their office according to the reckoning, or that is the counting of the year. And these render service on 4 days, which are not reckoned or which are not counted in the reckoning of a year. So this is where we get what is called a prophetical year. The prophetical year, as you read in the book of Daniel and in the book of Revelation, when you see the numbers 1,290 days in the book of Daniel and 1,260 days in the book of Revelation, what you're seeing there is the prophetical calendar. Okay, each month is 30 days, 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. And so when you see the word 42 months or time times and half a time, what you're seeing or reading about that is being mentioned is these prophetical counts of the calendar, which every month is equal to 30 days. These 4 intercalary days or the transitional days are not counted when you're dealing with prophetical counts. So if you was to use the 364-day calendar as we use to count our days for the year, and you try to apply that to the prophecy of Daniel or the prophecy in the book of Revelation by John, you're going to be off. And you're going to be off by 4 days every year. So if you're talking about 3.5 years, you're going to be off by 12 days already. And then you're going to be off by another 2 days because you're going to go through 2 intercalary days of that 42-month period. So altogether, you're going to be off, what is that, 14 days. That's almost half a month in a 3-year period, 3.5-year period, because you are counting with the intercalary days. So you can't use those intercalary days. That's why it says these services of 4 days, which are not reckoned in the reckoning or the counting of a year. Okay. You don't count them at that time, but you do count it when you're keeping your days, as you're numbering your days, to keep your Sabbaths, to keep your feast days, keeping your appointed times. You have to count it with the 364 days only. But when you're talking about prophecy, prophetical things that are written in scripture, you remove those 4 intercalary days in your counting of the prophetical year. Yes, Reuben. Oh, yeah. People don't like Enoch. There's a lot of people who don't like the extra biblical books because, they like to, they're just like the Pharisees and Sadducees who don't like to have the whole counsel of Yahuah. They want to make up their own. And so this is why you have stuff like the Mishnah and the Talmud, and they want to give you these other doctrines and these other commandments of men. Yeah. So when you try to tell them about the truth, they're like, oh man, I don't want to hear no book of Enoch. That's why it wasn't in the Bible. Why are you reading it? It's not in the Bible. Well, who compiled the Bible for you to even believe that to begin with? Who says what is allowed and what is not? This is the problem with a lot of people, especially here in the great old United Snakes of America. They're too snowflakey. And I'll say it over and over again. You're all like little snowflakes here in America. Someone just breathes on you the wrong way and I'm melting, it hurts. Let the truth be truth. Let it fall where it may. This is why we're told to test all things, testing all spirits. If you want to hide yourself from information, by all means, you go right on ahead. Okay. Now, I wouldn't advise anyone who is just fresh into this walk to all of a sudden start reading some of these books because they don't know the foundation. The first thing that everybody, and I'm talking about everybody, including you fake Christians out there, and those of you who are calling yourself Christians, because Christianity in itself is a lie. It's a fraud. All right. Wrote a song about it. Like to hear it go. But anyways, it's a lie. And once you realize that you have been taught a lie and you can look into the scriptures for yourself, you're going to see why you was caught into the religion called Christianity, because Christianity is going to tell you what you can and can't read, what has been canonized and what has not been canonized. If you want these people to force feed you what you're allowed to see, then you are the ones that is going to probably be taking the mark because you're saying, oh, my government will never harm me. No, this chip, this isn't the mark. No, my government would never be so nefarious to do something like this to me. My government loves me. Good old United States of America, my United States, my country. They would never do nothing to me that's evil. Really? They wouldn't spy on you? They won't bring up false accusations and charges against you? Oh, I've been a part of all of that. I see what they do to our vets who have fought their wars, their corporate wars. And now they're strung out on the streets on all kinds of stuff because they didn't care for their own, but they care for them enough to put a gun in their hand to go do stuff on behalf of Uncle Sam. And then when Uncle Sam was done with them, they just throw him off to the side like trash. And it's the same thing that is with many of you who are following Christianity. You don't understand that you're being used like garbage by Satan because Christianity belongs to Satan. It doesn't belong to our Creator. He never gave us Christianity. Your father, the devil, gave it to us. And I'm talking about those who still consider themselves Christians. Nowhere in Scripture are we called Christians. That was added. They were first called Christians in Antioch. The word Christian wasn't even connected to the disciples at the time when our Messiah was walking on this earth. There was no such thing as a Christian. He wasn't even called Christ. He was called Mashiach. So if you want to say that somebody was calling the followers of Yahuah, those who followed Yahusha in the flesh, and they called him something, they were called Messianics. They followed the Messiah. They were called Nazarene, sects of the Nazarene. You can find that in Acts chapter 24, verse 5. And they said that Shaul, a.k.a. Paul, who they changed his name to Paul, there was no reason for his name to be changed, but they changed it anyway, as they change everything. But Shaul was known as the leader of the sect of the Nazarenes. So now, with all that being said, many people don't like to know the truth. They only want to read what has been officially given to them. It's just like the same thing with the official story of 9/11, right? Oh, yeah, these people from Saudi Arabia did it. You really believe that nonsense? You think some people that came from Saudi Arabia so-called hijacked some airplanes and ran them into two towers, and the U.S. military was told to stand down and not to shoot those planes out of the air if that was truly what was going on? And that they had this big old volume called the Patriot Act that was getting ready to come out a week later that was like, what, 1,600 pages of laws? Who was able to put that thing together so fast in a week's time and say, this is the Patriot Act and this is what we're going to do now because of what happened on September 11th? People are not using their minds. They're not making sense of all that's going on before them. It's truly, as they say, it was an inside job, but you can't tell these people nothing because my United States of America is so great. My government would never do something like that to us. Don't get me started on the United Snakes of America, Babylon, and all of her so-called glory. Okay. So we are almost at 3 hours, and I'm definitely going to have to shut it down at 3 hours because that is going too long, and I want people to be able to watch this and not have to comb through minutes and hours of information trying to locate certain things. Let me see here as we get ready to finish this. Yep, all of that. Please take in consideration leaders that love this country. Well, Ivan, we're not talking about the leaders, and I don't know which leaders that you're talking about. If you can give me one that doesn't have their hands or their pockets being in the coffers of the Jewish people, then you would have somebody that I can say, okay, I agree with you. You know, maybe you might have a handful, right? Like maybe like what's the guy's name? I can't remember his name. Something Paul. He might be one. That's that's an upstanding person. Rand Paul or whatever his name. Him and his dad were both in the Congress or something. I can't remember exactly their names. Rand Paul, thank you. Yes, Rand Paul. And again, you know, what is it to be a politician? What is it for me to even be dealing with politicians and what they stand for? This is not my home. This is not my country. I might live in this country. I might be a US citizen, right? And if they could, they would take it away from me if they could because of the things that I speak about this country. But I do have the freedom of speech until they take that away, which they're already starting to take away. You see, it even comes down to the Second Amendment. They got people believing that guns is only for hunting and to protect yourself when somebody's trying to enter your door. Go back and read the Second Amendment. It is also if your government becomes tyrannical. This is why you are supposed to have a Minuteman standing army in every state. Do you know to be in a militia today is considered a homegrown terrorist? But it's in the Constitution. Tennessee, they had their militia until recently, and they started taking them down because they're looking at them as homegrown terrorists. But this is how they get rid of those who are fighting against what they want to contribute to their agenda, and they don't want nobody fighting them. Like here in the state of Nevada, if you go back and you look at the Bundy Ranch here in Nevada, this was a few years back, about 10 years. Boy, I'm gonna tell you, the Nevada militia was not playing. The Bureau of Land Management, they came with their guns, and these boys, the militia, they came with their guns, and they had a straight up standoff on a bridge, and they was about to shoot it out like a OK Corral style. You can look it up. Bundy Ranch, like Al Bundy, Bundy Ranch. Look it up, and it happened here just outside of Las Vegas. And it was like, I can't remember how many days that it was a standoff. But guess what? The militia won. The state tucked their tail and went away. But we don't have people like that anymore. Now we stand up like that and they bring the National Guard at you. They're going to bring everything that they got in their tactical arms, and they're going to come and they're going to dismantle whatever it is that's in front of them because they got all the weaponry. They got all the weaponry. But this is not our fight. We don't try to fight this government. We don't try to fight this military. We're not supposed to vote. This is not our home to be voting. Just because you are a U.S. citizen, you are not obligated to vote. That is a choice. You have the right to vote. So if you want to play their games, then you go ahead and play with their voting ballots. But you're not voting for anyone outside of your local regional area, and even some of that has been tainted because you have people in their pockets. So yes, we are behind enemy lines. And I will say it until either Yahuah comes and gets me or he cracks that sky, one or the other. This country has done nothing but has done a lot of harm, a lot of unaliving. It's hurt so many people. And this is why this country is at the top of the list on Yahuah's kill list. Oh, this is going to be the kill list. This one here, oh yeah, he's going to do a job on it that is never going to be mentioned again once it goes down. Nobody will ever know what USA means after he's done with this place. And the only ones who will go after people like me are the ones that are on the other side of that fence or the other side of that line. Because again, Yahuah has already drawn the lines. Which side are we going to be on? There is no gray area. You're either with him or you are against him. You're either gathering or you're scattering. And this country is scattering. Yep, it is time for a new one of these books, but I got all kinds of pages falling out this bad boy. I might have to just get me some individual books instead of having it. They don't put these bindings on too well. And this is why it's coming apart like that right there. Did anybody learn anything today by the Ruach, by the Spirit? Did anyone learn anything today? All right. Glad to know that Abba Yahuah has opened up more people's eyes to his truth. Hallelujah. Yahuah. Yes, yes, yes. How beautiful is our Abba. He truly is wonderful. Oh, excuse me. Well, I'm over here dry heaving right now because I haven't ate yet, but that's okay. I'm about to eat here in a little bit as soon as I'm off this live. But right now, I'm here with the Mishpachah. Yes, I am here with the Mishpachah. Let me see what we got here. I want to locate a song that I want to play for you, if I can find it. I think it's one of these. Let me check. Okay, that's another one. I like that one too, but that ain't the one. Let's go back. It must be this one. Let's see. Yes, this is the one. So before I play this, let us palal. Let us go ahead and close out in palal. Heavenly Abba Yahuah, we come before you in the mighty name of your Bane, Yahushua HaMashiach, on this Shabbat. Abba Tuda Atah, for all that you have taught us this Yaum. Thank you for all that you have taught us this day. Father, we thank you for those that you brought in, the new listeners, O Yah, even the ones that disagreed. For we know that the seed has been planted. They cannot say that they didn't hear, O Yah. Even if their hearts and their minds were shut down, we know that your word shall not return unto you void, that it will go out and do what it has been proposed to do, O Abba, to the saving of the souls, to those who heard and do and obey, and also to the damnation of those who would not obey. And so, Abba, we palal for all of our friends. We palal for all of our mishpachah, our flesh family. Abba, we continue to palal for our Akis and our Kodis all around the world who call upon your name and seek your face. Please do not deal with us, O Yah, according to our ways. Do not deal with us according to the transgressions that we have committed of your Torah. We ask that you will continue to lead us and guide us by your Ruach HaKodesh, O Abba Yahuah. We ask that you would strengthen us, prepare us as your people for the things that are getting ready to happen upon this earth. For we see the signs that are happening. We know your Ruach is talking to each one of us in our heart and in our mind. We thank you that you have kept us all this time for this day, and that you have raised us up at this time in the history of Adam's kind. And so we ask you, O Yah, to keep a hedge of protection around your people, that no harm or danger come to us unless it be your will. And if it does happen that way, O Abba, we ask that you would give us the strength and the courage not to falter, not to give in, but to stay strong and courageous, even if it means until death. We thank you, Abba. We give you all praise, honor, and esteem. It's in the mighty name of your Ben Yahushua HaMashiach. Hallelujah, Yahuah. Hallelujah, Yahuah. And hallelujah, Yahuah. Amat. Rumamu Yahuah. When you hear me say Rumamu, that means to exalt our Abba Yahuah. This is for all of you Christians out there, what I'm getting ready to play. Please heed the words of this song.
They tell you lies, they look you in the eye. They tell you to be Christ-like, they tell you to obey them. I don't buy it, I never would. I'm changing my way. God and Lord, I heard that before. Christianity is a lie and a fraud. Christianity is a lie and a fraud. Stop calling him God and Lord, it's Yahuah. Christianity is a lie and a fraud. Christianity is a lie and a fraud. Stop calling him God and Lord, it's Yahuah. They say, believe what we say, do what we do, pay what you owe. Pray every day to their image. The man they say is in the sky who doesn't even exist. Christianity is a lie and a fraud. Christianity is a lie and a fraud. Stop calling him God and Lord, it's Yahuah. Christianity is a lie and a fraud. Christianity is a lie and a fraud. Stop calling him God and Lord, it's Yahuah.
Come on.
He's not your shepherd, he's not your guy. He's just a man, just a guy. Made up the rules for you to obey and give all your money away. What? Christianity is a lie and a fraud. Christianity is a lie and a fraud. Stop calling him God and Lord, it's Yahuah. Christianity is a lie and a fraud. Christianity is a lie and a fraud. Stop calling him God and Lord, it's Yahuah.
Oh, yeah, I know some people got angry because I see some people done left. It's all right. It's not for them. All right. Christianity is a lie and a fraud. And you can take that to the bank. Yeah, cash it in. Get back your money if you can from all those thieves out there, all those high-priced pimps out there that's been stealing your money and using you as a whore, as a harlot, as a prostitute. This is why Yahuwah says, come out of her, my people. Don't share in her plagues. Don't share in her sins. Come out of her. Time is getting short. Get out of that deception that Satan has given you. He done dangled that carrot in front of your face all your life. And some of us said, nope, we got off of that little Ferris wheel and we walked away. Some of you are still on it. You need to get off of that hamster wheel. You need to get off of it. because all they're doing is teaching you lies and traditions of men. We have all inherited lies from our ancestors. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I want to thank all of you for being here. We have come to another end of a Shabbat study. All the questions, all the comments, Tuda Ata. Thank you all. And we are going to do the Aaronic Barakah right now as we come to the end again of another Shabbat. And it's been so beautiful. It truly has. Give me a second here as I close these down. All right. So let us read this. Numbers chapter 6. Yeah. And Yahuah spoke to Moshe, verse 22, saying, speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, this is how you barak the children of Yasharal. Say to them, Yahuah barak you and guard you. Yahuah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahuah lift his face upon you and give you shalom. Thus they shall put my name on the children of Yasharal, and I myself shall barak them. Hallelujah. Yahuah. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Have a Gadol Layla, a great night, and hope to see you next week. Yahuah willing.
May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. Yahuah. So shall you bind
My name upon the children of Yasharal, and I'll barak them.
May Yahuah bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. Yahuah. So shall you put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them.
Yes, hallelujah. Yahuah. You, Abba Yahuah, is everything to us, and we love you, O Yah. Ahaba Yah.
May Yahuah bless you
And keep you.
May he make his face shine upon you
And be righteous to you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom.
children of Israel,
and I brought them. Ooh. All right, Mishpachah. By the way, for those of you that are still here, if any of you want to see what your money has done for those in Jamaica for the Hurricane Melissa relief fund of those of you, because we have sent over $2,500 to these people, okay, to our Akis and Akodis. So if you are one who has sent money and you would like to see what your money has done, please email me. Flat tire while she was doing this for the sake of our Abba Yahuah, to help the least of our brethren as if we have done it unto him. So if you are interested to want to see that, and the only reason why I didn't show it here is because of the length of it. But for those that want to see it, even if you didn't contribute, just send me an email. I'll send you I'll share it with you so you can see it on your own time. It's beautiful. And I'm so thankful that Abba Yahuah has put it on all of our hearts to help out with those who are still recovering. And if you still want to send money, just reach out to me, and I will show you how to send it. Either you can send it personally yourself, or you can send it to me, and I will send it and make sure that it gets there as well. With all that being said, I am Ak Jimmy, also known as Brother Jimmy, and we as a collective, those of us who are following the way, the truth, and the life, we are ambassadors of Yah. Until next week, Mishpachah, Shabbat Shalom.
Of Yeshua, straight out of the book. The scriptures first is sharper than fishing hooks, snagging souls, taking tolls, leaving devils shook. Who we be, messengers, truth bringers, that's the key. Unlocking minds, leaving darkness in the breeze. We are the MIF in darkness in debris. We are the ambassadors of Yah, spreading love from near to far. We are the ambassadors of Yah. Now listen close, hear us, ambassadors of Yah. Hear us, Buses be thumping, shofars be blowing, beat be steady, word power every hour, truth already, planted deep, secrets keep, fools are steady, we elevate, see your face, so be ready, no compromise, open your eyes and see the light, walk tall, stand strong, with all your might. Open your eyes, see the light, walk tall, stand strong, with all your might.